This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
You are listening to the Voices of Wrestling Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
X out, go listen to some boring podcast where they're afraid of their own shadow. Okay? Don't listen to Joe Lanza, because Joe Lanza's not changing.
And Rich Craich.
Give me a name. Who delivers this guy in a big spot?
Joe, don't yell at me. I like him.
In the big spot, who delivers better than this guy?
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
And we are live here on the Voices of Wrestling Flagship Podcast. I'm Rich Craich, alongside, as always, the King of Banter, Mr. Joe Lanza. Joe, how's it going?
It's great, Rich. It's great.
Everything's dandy.
Yeah. It's great to finally talk to you today.
Is it?
I don't know. I never know what to say. I don't know. We just talked for 15 minutes.
We did. Yeah. I don't know. That seemed kind of genuine for the first time. Like that. This was a part of your day that you were actually looking forward to, as opposed to.
Oh,
well,
man,
you look forward to this show, right?
Did I burst your bubble?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I was like, oh, cool. Like Joe had a bad day, but we're gonna walk him through it. But no, you're just being sarcastic. So okay.
Hurt your feelings
a little bit. But you in general enjoy doing this show, correct?
I love doing the audio.
Yeah. I I always say about the flagship is I hate the show the entire day, and then we hit record, and then I enjoy it, and we go live, and I enjoy it. But the whole day, it's just like in the back of my mind. Everything I do, I'm like, I gotta do a fucking flagship later today. Like, I don't mind doing it, you know. But do you know what I mean? Where like it's just like this thing that's in your day, and you all like everything has to revolve around that. And I'm thinking, oh man, what am I gonna eat? It's like, how am I gonna eat? Like, when am I gonna eat? Okay, I gotta do this. I gotta do everything. I have to plan around this so much that it kind of consumes my Thursdays. But then when we hit record, I enjoy it. So.
Way to put it over.
It's a great show, though. I mean, I enjoy doing it once we do it. Whereas you're strategically planning the entire day of how to attack, like a predator, how to attack the takes on a daily basis here on the Voice Wrestling Flagship. So
I'm thinking about the takes all week long. I mean, I'm watching shows thinking about what can I say about this that's going to annoy people, or what can I say about this that's a real a hot take that nobody else has. But I have the same look. There's some Thursdays where I'm like, this fucking thing,
it's just kind of like a pit in your stomach, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like, oh, that's fuck, like it's just coming, and like you just know it's going to be there at some point during the day. But that I appreciate that too, is that like we have gotten on a little bit of a schedule, and that's people forget we talked about like old flagships back in the day, like we literally would, I think, text each other and be like, hey, you want to do a flagship today? And you're like, yeah, sure. Like, with no rhyme or reason when we did them.
Yeah. Sometimes
on a Monday, sometimes on a Friday, sometimes on a Tuesday. Like, literally, like, I would just say, hey, you free tonight? And you're like, yeah, I think so. Yeah, whatever. Okay, let's do it. And that almost is worse, because that was just, well, I don't know. That we can't do that anymore, obviously, with the live shows. But, yeah, we used to be all over the place back in the classic days.
Yes, sometimes be like, we haven't done one in like 13 days. You want to do one today?
Right. We probably should.
Yeah. Yeah. Very lack of planning, lack of preparation. Just turn on the fucking mics and go. But when you're incredibly talented,
we could do that. Yeah, people think a lot of people think that we just kind of turn on the mics and go. And I want to say we do plan a little bit. We obviously have topic ideas, but the topic, I mean, it's literally like, I will say, hey, what about these 7 topics? Or you will wake up and say, hey, what about these 7 topics? And that's basically essentially like we kind of have this hidden thing where we both know what each other is watching. Or occasionally, like, I'll check in and say, hey, I got some free time. I'm going to watch this, this, and this. What are you going to watch this weekend? You'll say, okay, I'm going to watch this, this, and this. But that's about the extent. Like, there's no notes that say, okay, Joe is going to defend El Desperado and Rich is going to say El Desperado sucks. Like, we don't have those notes. We just have, like, here's the matches, and then we just talk about them. You know what I mean? Look, where I've seen other podcasts and other notes that other podcasts have, and it's like extensive about like, all right, so I will talk about this, and then this person will talk about this, and I'm like, man, that sounds even more exhausting than just recording this audio.
Well, that's why those shows stink and those people are nerds.
Right.
I mean, you just turn on the mics and go. If you have good personality and know what you're talking about, it's going to work. Yeah, I mean, usually on Wednesday night in the wee hours or early Thursday, I'll send you a list of topics, or vice versa. You'll send me a list of topics. And the other person is just like, yeah, that looks fine.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then there's a curveball. Every now and then someone will present something and the other guy will be like, oh.
Yeah, Joe's like, I watched Big Japan this week. I'm like, oh, fuck. All right. let's
and
go
then it
find
either
the
gets
Big Japan.
and then Rich is either that. Then Rich is like, well, there goes my lunch break, or it gets X'd off of the sheet, or it's like, I don't really. But so every now and then there's a curveball. But when you're doing this for like 9 years, you kind of have a feel for what we're going to talk about before it's even communicated. And then when the other person sends the proposed run sheet, the other person's normally like, yeah, that's about right. But the other thing that happens sometimes is whoever sends the list of topics will forget something important. And then the other guy will be like, well, what about this? And then you'll be like, oh, yeah, I feel like an idiot. How did I forget WrestleMania?
Right, WrestleMania is this weekend. Oh, yeah.
Or something. Yeah. But generally, that's the extent of it. It's that Wednesday night, Thursday morning exchange of topics. And then the run sheet gets typed up. And that's it. I mean, we don't plan. And then when we get on the call,
unfortunately, that's when we do most of our planning. Like, a lot of people think that we come late every single week because you're stumbling through whatever, and I'm sitting here tapping my toes. And we kind of play that gimmick. Like, I'll be in the chat room being like, oh, waiting for Joe. But a lot of times, like, you and I are talking that entire time, and you're like, all right, what the hell are we going to talk about? So we probably should do that earlier in the week, but instead we decide that at 6:30 or 7 or whenever we go live, that 15 minutes is when we're going to decide what we're going to talk about, what order, what takes, what we watched, all that sort of stuff. So we probably should do that earlier in the week, but that's okay. I like how we do it too.
Yeah, that's when we decide what order the topics are going to go in and strategically plan that. Because there is a strategy that goes into that. You kind of want to stack it where the hottest topic or the most interesting topic of the week is in the front. Because the way that we do the show, we never shut the fuck up. So we can't just do a nice, tidy 12-minute segment on something. So what we've learned to do is front load the show with the most important topics so none of those get shortchanged. So, okay, if AEW is the big topic this week, we can just go and not stare at the clock. And if it goes an hour 15, that's fine because that was the big topic that week. Whereas maybe something like in recent weeks, Bloodsport, for instance, we make sure that that's going to be at the end because that doesn't really require a lot of time. Or if it gets shortchanged, it's no big deal because we don't think our listeners have a ton of interest in it to begin with or as much as the other topics. And if it gets bumped entirely, so be it. So there is a strategy in constructing the order of the topics and then making them flow. We also don't like to jump back and forth. Like if we start with New Japan, we might transition to All Japan or Noah instead of going to like an Impact pay-per-view preview.
Right, and then going back to Noah, and then, yeah. We despite having a whole segment about bouncing around an area, we don't like bouncing around the world. We like bouncing around a certain geographic region as opposed to just the world. So,
yeah, that way, because a lot of people, I think a lot of our listeners do the whole 3 hours and consume the whole thing. I do. But I definitely think there's a segment of listeners who aren't interested in a lot of the promotions and a lot of the topics. So if you kind of group them together with other similar topics, it's also better for the listener. A listener who's Puro-centric might listen to New Japan, All Japan, Noah Talk all in a row. And then when we start previewing an Impact pay-per-view, they might just check out. And that's fine. So it makes it easier on those listeners as well. So there is a strategy, and that's usually what we're doing when you guys are tapping on your fucking watches saying, how come you're not starting on time? We're figuring out the order and what we're going to do. And maybe if we're going to cut something or maybe if something, just working it. But that's the extent of the preparation. But when you're doing it for 9 years
and you're good
and you're great. And we have a decent feel for each other. I know what angles Rich is going to approach things from. I know what he's going to want to talk about. I know what he's going to be passionate about. So you just understand. I have an understanding all week long of this is something we're going to have to do on the show. or this is something I'm watching that Rich is probably not going to watch. He's going to be mad if I make him watch it. So I'm not even going to, you know what I mean? It's not like there's wrestling I watch for pleasure, believe it or not, Rich. It's crazy. There's not a lot of time for it.
205 Live, right? That's a pure pleasure watch.
Well, I mean, you're joking.
I'm making a joke. I'm dead serious. People think that that's a gimmick, but I think you enjoy watching 205 Live. I think what the 205 Live to you, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it signifies that I am all caught up with everything that I need to watch, everything that I need to have a take on. So you crack the knuckles, you sit down, you turn on the old 205 and the purple brand, and you just kind of let it happen in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, when I binge watch 205 or NXT UK or Main Event, and I binge watch all of those things, I eventually watch all of it. Like, I may not watch every match because the network has that very handy menu on the bottom now, where all the segments are broken out.
For another, 2 weeks?
But yeah, if I go on one of my crash watches of a WWE C show, I know that we're never going to talk about that, so I don't even pitch it or propose it. Unless I come across something like Walter and Ilya, where it's like, okay, you have to watch this. This needs to be watched. And that'll happen sometimes too, both directions. Rich will watch something and be like, you got to watch this 0-1 match. Well, I don't think it's ever been a 0-1 match, but he'll be like, oh, you got to watch this, whatever.
If they made more tape, if they made tape more often, I probably would be more 0-1. But then we did the cursory once a year 0-1 makes tape. We talk about it show, so we'll see. We usually get one in the middle of the year too. The Fire Festival comes up a little bit later, right?
Well, that's the other thing too. Like when it comes to places like 0-1 or even some indies or whatever the case. Okay, a week like this, nothing's getting on the show besides New Japan and AEW because there's just too much to talk.
Yeah, there's a huge Dragon Gate show this weekend that we could probably preview, but there's no way we're going to do it. So we're gonna review it next week, I'm sure. But there's just no chance we could talk about it this week. There's just so much going on.
But when there's a light week and there's not a ton going on, that's when you dig deeper. And you're like, oh, this Big Japan thing made tape. And then, if there's room for it, we'll talk about it. Or, whatever indie just right. I know hasn't been over a year because of the pandemic and everything, but that's kind of how some of the other promotions sneak in. Because on a light week, you have to have something. I mean, we can't come on here and do 45 minutes. Rich would love that. But we can't come on here and do 45 minutes.
Dude, yeah, I don't think I could do 45 minutes of anything, to be honest. Like that.
Yeah. How do people do that? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. I listen to some shows and like there are some shows that do that, and like I don't know if you have this sort of weird, and I guess it might just be you and I and the way we record a show, but like I have this weird thing where I'll listen to a show and they're talking about something, and then like I'm like, oh, this is getting pretty good, and then they just switch topics. I'm like, no, you were just digging into it, you were just going, like, come on, you just had a good point there, and like the other person, it'll be like two hosts, and the other person just doesn't say anything. I'm like, no, come on, react, like let's go, bounce it between. But that's why we do 3 hours and they do 45. So.
That's why those shows stink, and those people are nerds.
They're fucking garbage. Yeah,
I mean, that's why those shows stink. Look, our format's not for everyone. I mean, there's people that don't want to listen to 3 hours of super nerdy, whatever you want to call it, newsletter-centric style wrestling talk. I get that, but I know what you're talking about. Sometimes it's like, well, why aren't they going deeper on this? There's so much more that could be said, and I think, our audience appreciates that we do that because there's a lot of shows that don't. Now, I don't understand, like, why Brian Alvarez is always tapping his watch. Like, we're running out of time. No, you're not. You have all the time you want.
It's your job.
Like, what time? Like, it's your own thing. Like, you're not – you self-produced this. Like, Meltzer's going on this tremendous history lesson on something, and it's like, let him go, But, yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of the behind the curtain of how it all comes together. I mean – the sort of fringe topics. It's just they got to get in on the weeks that aren't so stacked. I mean, that's how that happens. And then there's times too where we really just take a liking to a certain fringe topic and we hammer it for a couple weeks in a row or a couple months, which may not necessarily be one of the bigger topics of the week. But again, we want to talk about things we're passionate about because that comes through on the audio.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that I deal with a lot. Was that your one, or are you going to do two here? You think?
I don't know. That's my.
Oh,
that's my. Hold on. I'm going to tell you why I'm coughing on the air because I'm terrified to hit the mute button because of how sketchy the mic is lately with the awful sound that. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather just cough than risk hitting the mute button and then that awful noise comes through for the next 40 seconds. But yeah, I don't know what you were starting to say.
I don't even remember what I was about to say. Yeah, it was gonna be a very impassioned discussion, but now I forget.
It sounded like it.
Man, it was good. It was good. What the hell was I going to talk about?
Topics where we get fascinated with something that might not be the biggest story, but we put it on the show.
Right?
Anyway.
Yeah. Like a lot of people remember in the early COVID days, like 2AW, we got really into, and that's happened in our history as well. Like there will be a promotion or a wrestler or a thing or or whatever you're saying that we like really hammer home for a bunch of weeks, and then there'll be a week like this where just so much stuff comes in and a big news comes in that we lose it, and then we kind of get off track, and it's hard to kind of get back there. But I now I remember what we were going to say is. I do hear from a lot of people, especially like in our Discord or whatever, that are like, oh, you guys have to talk about this, or you need to talk about this, and you need to talk about that. And I think some people have the wrong... We try to cover as many of the big topics and the big news stories and all that sort of stuff that we can, within reason. We try to do it every single week. We try to cover everything that's major in wrestling, everything that we find, that I think the listeners would find interesting, things that are major news topics, major stories, major promotions, all that sort of stuff. And then we try to sprinkle in some stuff that's kind of fun or whatever. But I think a lot of people sort of think, okay, well, this thing happened, so you guys have to talk about it. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, we're going to talk about stuff we're passionate about. Because this show would suck if you and I had to sit down and talk about stuff we weren't passionate about. We always talk about that. We'd have a lot more listeners if we reviewed Raw and SmackDown. We're not going to do that. I don't want to do that because it would come across like I'm being forced to review Raw and SmackDown. And I think that we try to get stuff that we find is newsworthy, but also we're passionate about, because that's what our show is. It's all about passion. It's all about, whether we hate it or we like it or whatever, but like being neutral on a topic is, like you always say, the worst thing ever is when you just say, yeah, I don't know, that show was fine. It was there. That match was there. That's the worst. Like you don't want that. You want to avoid that. And yeah, so a lot of times there might be big stories or big topics or whatever that people are like, oh, you should cover that, or why don't you cover that, or you should cover that. And it's like, I don't really have a take on it. I don't really have any passionate thought about it. So I don't really want to feel obligated like I have to cover anything. Like I've never felt like we were obligated to have one sort of direction. And for people that listen to the show, we've gone in a lot of different weird, there was times where Dragon Gate was like 2 hours of the show. There was times where New Japan was all 3 hours of the show. There was times where WWE was all 3 hours of the show. Then there were times where AEW was all, there's weeks where it's 17 different promotions. We're bouncing around and doing all that sort of stuff. It's what we're passionate about that week, not necessarily what's always the most important, within reason. Obviously, if it's an important big story, we're going to talk about it. But yeah, I don't feel any obligation to cover any certain topics just because it's a topic that was a news bit this week. Like, I don't know. That's kind of boring to me. I don't really want to do that show.
I have a great example this week. Bobby Lashley just won the WWE title on Raw this week. We are not going to talk about that at all.
No.
And that's a big story and everything, but I have nothing to say about that because I don't care. It doesn't mean anything. WWE booking is boring to talk about from the perspective that we talk about it. And it just isn't, it wasn't even on my radar for one of the things that we needed to get to. And that's a WWE world title change. But I don't think our listeners want to hear us talk about that.
I'll be honest, I forgot that happened this week.
It's just not on your radar.
By Thursday, it seems so long ago, that happened. Yeah, first time WWE champion for Bobby Lashley, too, so...
They have devalued that for so long, their titles for so long, that I just don't care. Because how am I supposed to analyze it? What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. I talked about it a little bit on Thursday TV reviews in relation to the Raw rating this week. I did touch on it a little. I talked about Bad Bunny, and I talked about the show-long Miz Bobby Lashley thing, and I gave my take on the Raw rating and why they were up with the younger viewer. If you want to hear that, $5 tier, patreon.com. I won't do it here, /Voice of Wrestling, which, but yeah, that's a great example of something that's a big story. And other podcasts are probably doing an hour on that, because that's what they do. And that's what they talk about. I never even thought about putting that on.
No, didn't even cross my mind that needed to be on the run sheet, which says a lot, I think. Believe it or not, it does say a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely not a time that a world championship change would not have let off our show. A WWE world title change would have easily let off the show in many, many other eras. But that's what I say. Like, the show has never been one strict thing. Like, I think people always have this, and we've seen it, we've talked about it a bunch with, like, the ebb and flow of, like, oh, these guys are on the New Japan payroll, and it's like, oh, these guys hate New Japan, now they're on the AEW payroll. You know what I mean? Like, we're on a lot of different payrolls over the course of the last 9 years, so.
Well, I was waiting for New Japan. I was waiting for New Japan to like take a turn and for us to turn on it because I've always wanted to prove that point. The problem was
give it an hour, man. We'll see.
The problem was New Japan had been good for the entire life cycle of the show, and it never stopped being good until, like last summer. So we had like 6 or 7 straight years of just overtly praising this promotion. So people who don't like us and didn't really like New Japan thought that we were in the bag for New Japan. And what's funny is when we started criticizing New Japan, there is now a whole segment of New Japan hardcore fans who hate us because we criticize New Japan. And now people think we're in the bag for AEW because for the most part, we praise and enjoy AEW. And so it goes. It's why I always said when we used to get shit about the New Japan stuff, if this podcast had existed in the early 90s, we'd be hearing that we were all Japan shills. If it was 1995, they'd be telling us we're ECW marks. At least me. I know me for sure. I'm still an ECW mark. If it were 2006, they'd be calling us, Ring of Honor.
Yeah, barricade slappers, which we would definitely be barricade slappers because I was a barricade slapper. So, yes,
absolutely. Sure. So it's like, here's the thing. We like what's good. It isn't very complicated.
I think we're biased, Joe. What do you think? I think that we're actually biased.
I am
things that we like.
Right. Yes, I am 100% biased to things that are good.
Yes, I like things that I like more than things that I hate. Believe it or not,
shockingly,
I'm sorry. I know it's not objective, but yeah, things I like more than things I hate. So, whether that changes your opinion on the show, I'm sorry. That's just the way it's going to be. Unfortunately, we have planted our flag in that things we like, we're going to talk about more because we like them, and the things we don't like as much. So we might not talk about them as much. So I don't know. It's bold. It's an interesting strategy to go about it, but that's the way we're going to do it. So,
and I was never ever in my fandom like a New Japan loyalist. Like, I'm not Mike Sempervive. Mike Sempervive is a dyed-in-the-wool New Japan guy. I was a Noah guy. I was a Green Ring guy. I have no emotional long-term connection to New Japan like I do to maybe ECW or something like that. New Japan just got hot and it was good. So I praised it a lot for the last 8 years. If New Japan, I still enjoy it to some extent, but if it turned on a dime and was terrible for the next 5 years, I'd fucking stop watching it. I have no special devotion or connection to New Japan. If it started to stink, I'd hand wave it, Whereas, there's other promotions where you just have that emotional long-term connection and you're always going to follow it no matter how bad it gets. So that was the other funny thing about all that New Japan stuff. But I knew over time it would be shown that it's not like we're out here just stumping for things. We just like things when they're good.
Right.
I mean, so and I'm not afraid of people telling us, oh, you just fucking, claiming that we're being paid or that's fine. Those are, they could say whatever they want. It's not going to stop me from praising what I think is great. And it's not going to make me in my mind think, oh, I have to hedge these takes. No, I am going full bore and telling people exactly what I think about it. Now, here's the thing. If a promotion is over with me, it's definitely going to have more leeway just naturally because everything's over. If something's over with you, it's going to be easier for them to please you.
Sure, of course. Yeah, where if you don't like a promotion, little dumb things that happen. Like New Japan I'm pretty down on, and there's going to be stuff in these 2 Castle Attack shows and this 48th anniversary show that wouldn't matter. Like 4 years ago I wouldn't have cared, but I'm on edge about them. You know what I mean? They're on pins and needles. So when something happens, I'm like, fuckers. You know what I mean? Like, it's just little stuff like that, but that's completely 100% natural when you're not, all in on something. The little stuff bothers you more than it normally would.
Yeah, for sure. And and the reverse holds true as well. Like if a promotion's super over with you, it's like when people have a favorite wrestler. They're always going to think that person's matches are better than someone who doesn't have any opinion on that wrestler. And that's fine. That's what being a fan is. That's what Those things. There's not even anything wrong with that.
Yeah, we kind of have to get back to that, I think, because and I don't know if that's just like a website thing, or we deal with it because we run this website, or we see it from Dave Meltzer gets it all the time, and all these other wrestling websites get it all the time. But like we need to get past this, and the Wrestling Observer newsletter, as you wrote on Patreon as well, $10 tier for that, patreon.com/Voice of Wrestling. The embarrassing reaction to the Wrestling Observer Awards is like we have to get away from like. People are allowed to like stuff and think that stuff that they like is better than things they don't like. Like that, we have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the podcast you listen to. If you want, I'm sure there's a podcast out there that runs down the news and wrestling line by line, no anything, no real opinion, nothing. I'm sure that it's probably out there. I don't know. It's going to be a terrible show, probably a horrendous show. But if you really need that, I'm sure there's somewhere they can do that. If you want Sports Center for wrestling, where they just kind of break stuff down. Oh yeah, fuck. I don't even know if Sports Center does it anymore. But like, if you want 1983's version of Sports Center, just kind of breaking down the sports and breaking down the news and doing all that sort of stuff, that's fine. But like, you need to get past it. Like nobody, that's just not how things are done. Like nobody is going to be there and be 100% objective about everything. They're going to like what they like, and they're going to talk about what they like more than what they hate. I mean, that's just we got to be okay with people being fans of stuff, but we've decided now that that's now biased, or you're in the bag, or you're not objective. Like fuck you, I don't need to be objective. Like I've never said that I need to be objective. I'm not fucking. No, I'm not Cronkite out here. Like you know what I mean? Like
I am under no obligation to be fair or in that way. But I am under an obligation to be honest with my opinions. That's the way I look at it. My obligation to the listener is to give my real honest opinion on everything, whether that opinion is going to be popular or unpopular. I'm under no obligation to be fair or equal time or none of that bullshit. I never even think about that. I don't want to talk about Bobby Lashley this week because it's a fucking boring topic. And it didn't crack into my 3 hours. Tough shit. I am under no obligation to be fair to WWE that have sucked so bad for so long that they've essentially driven me off. No obligation. But if I do talk about WWE, it is my obligation to give my honest opinion of what I'm watching. And most of the time, that means I'm burying the shit out of them. That's tough. Too bad. I can look, I'm not going to name names, but you're talking about shows that are just dry news reads. I can think of one, and I listen to it now and then. I'm not going to name it because I don't want people. I don't want to start shit. I like the hosts, but I think they do a kind of a boring show. But I listen to it now and then, and I can think of another show, which again I'm not going to name it, where it's just everything. They just love everything. Super positive. Oh, this is great. Oh, in this segment, they never criticize anything, and that's their style. And there is a market for that. There are people that want to just listen to positivity or not listen to critique that gets, super deep or super critical. There's a market for all of these things. I'm not interested in filling those niches. That's not what I'm ever going to do. I'm just going to come on here and give honest opinions. And the thing is, I think we do a good job of brushing aside the topics and the things that we don't like, because we don't, even though it's more entertaining a lot of the time, we don't like being super negative all the time. It's a drain on me to be super negative all the time. It wears me out.
Mm-hmm. And there's just so much else. There's so much else out there that we could do that, like, I tend to not want to waste my time with stuff that I'm going to be negative about. Like, that's why we've essentially, you mentioned a little bit before, when this show first started, we covered Ring of Honor every single week. The weekly TV, the pay-per-views, all that sort of stuff. And then I felt like I was just burying Ring of Honor every single week and saying, this isn't the Ring of Honor I grew up with. This Ring of Honor sucks. And eventually we just stopped talking about Ring of Honor. It pops up every so often. But, like, I just felt bad that I'm like, why am I watching this and why am I burying this every week? Like, it's not even, it wasn't fun and it wasn't really fair. And it was just kind of like, whatever, dude, I'm done. So we very, very, very rarely now talk about Ring of Honor, even though that was like an essential part of our show when we started.
Chikara. Lucha Underground, main roster WWE. We will bitch about something for like 6 weeks and then it's gone. Because then we're like, we don't want to do this anymore. And it's never even really like a conscious thing. It's just like, I don't know about you, I just don't want to talk about it anymore. So
it just kind of fades away. Yeah, without us really even saying, hey, let's not cover Ring of Honor anymore. It just kind of fades, yeah.
I don't even pitch it. Like at some point we were just like, we just stopped talking about Chikara. And Actually, that one might have been an on-air blow-up. Like,
that one, I think.
Never again.
I think we might have, yeah. I think there might be an inflection point there where you were like, fuck this company, I'm never talking about this shit again, and then we never talked about it again. So,
yeah, but WWE has been a gradual, slow progression to where now we just do the pay-per-views. I mean, for the most part, unless big news breaks. Business news.
Right.
We'll do the business news because I do think that's interesting. But do we have ads this week?
We do not have any ads this week, so this is a good opportunity to bring up. We brought it up twice already, but patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling. $10 listeners. If you're on the $10 tier, you have the ability to listen to this show live. There are some in their chat room right now. If you are listening to this on the free tier and you want to listen live, react live, be in the chat room, which is a very fun chat room always during these 3-hour shows, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, $10 tier for that. That is not all, though, because this is a big week to be a $10 subscriber, a great week to be a $10 subscriber, because you got Joe's breakdown of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards, including a burial of weird, creepy WWE fans that were just very ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous this week in reaction to those. So that was a very good written article as well. This weekend, AEW Revolution, instant reaction immediately following Sunday's pay-per-view. You and I are going live, and those are always a blast as well. The chat room's always buzzing. There's a bunch of people in there, and Revolution should be a very eventful show for a lot of different reasons. So we're going to go live immediately afterwards, and the way you can hear that, $10 tier. And we should mention as well, because people kind of get, forget this. We're gonna cover Revolution. We're gonna give our ratings. We're gonna give our reviews. We're gonna break down every match extensively. That's it. We're not coming on the flagship next week and covering AEW Revolution again because we've already done it. We've probably already done an hour and a half on it on Sunday. So that is your chance to hear us extensively break down Revolution. We might talk about some big picture stuff next week on the flagship, but that is going to be it in terms of ratings, big reviews, match by match breakdowns. This Sunday, Instant Reaction Live is the way to do that. $5 tier is going to get you some other stuff this week as well. Always gets you Jovember to remember when those come out. Always gives you the Thursday tier reviews. We also have our VOW Retro series that I do. Finishing up with The Arrival, looking at past NXT takeovers. Moving on to the WrestleMania Randomizer, which a lot of people are super, super into, which is really exciting. So essentially I put every single WrestleMania match from 1985 to 2015 into a randomizer. And we're going to start that pretty soon here. And I'm going to review. They spit out a bunch of them. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to spit out 30 matches or 40 matches. I don't know how many I'm going to do. We're going to see. I guess it depends how long the matches are. And we're going to talk about whatever matches get spit out. So it might be the main event of WrestleMania. It might be Andre versus Hogan. And I'll talk about Andre versus Hogan. It might be Brutus Beefcake versus, Adrian Adonis, right? Isn't that from WrestleMania 3?
No, it was Adrian Adonis versus Roddy Piper. And then Beefcake.
That's right. That's right. Piper put him in the sleeper. Yeah, that's right. So I might talk about that. I might talk about that match, and that match is only 4 or 5 minutes long or whatever.
You may as well just give that one away because you basically tipped off that you're talking about that.
Actually, I don't think I am. I don't think that one actually came up.
That's not on the list.
I don't think so. But
just the Beefcake turn, and then the new Dream Team forms with Bravo and Valentine.
I don't think that one is actually on there. I was just trying to think of another. I was trying to think of the most innocuous WrestleMania 3 match that I could possibly figure out. But that's the glory of the WrestleMania randomizer. Sometimes we're gonna get big matches to talk about, and sometimes we'll get kind of small stuff. But we're still gonna go. I'll also go in extensive detail about that match. Like you said, if it is Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis, we'll talk about the history of Adrian Adonis. We'll talk about the Dream Team. We'll talk about Roddy Piper. We'll talk about Beefcake. We'll get into it as much as we can. So that'll be a lot of fun to see where that goes. But that'll be most of March and April. As well, and that will be on the $5 tier. And I suppose we should mention this as well. The Deep Dive coming back potentially this weekend, hopefully this weekend. That's the plan right now. Do we want to reveal the topic? We've kind of teased the topic, but are we ready to fully reveal it?
Yeah, go ahead. You may as well. We're doing it this weekend. So.
People always say, Joe and Rich, you guys got to talk Joshi. You got to watch Joshi. You got to watch Stardom. You got to watch Tokyo Joshi Pro. You guys got to watch Joshi. Well, I tell people, motherfucker, I'm about to watch 3.5 hours of Joshi in a row because we are covering our next deep dive is Joshi in the WWF. So this is a very interesting topic. This is your topic, your baby. So you want to explain this a little bit before we, as we kind of give our last plug here for the deep dive, $5 tier, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling.
Yeah, we're watching and covering and reviewing every single match in WWF, not E, history, involving a Joshi wrestler, going all the way back to the mid-'80s and all the way through, I guess, through about the Alundra Blaze era.
Yeah, so a little, basically mid to late 1995 is about when they abandoned it again. We'll cover, as you said, mid-'80s, peak of the Glamour Girls, Jumping Bomb Angels, some other people coming over as well from Japan. Then it kind of goes away for a little bit, pops back up in 1994, and then goes from 94 to 95. But we are covering every single Joshi match that we could find that happened in a WWF ring. We are going to talk about it. So
every match that we could find on tape.
Yeah.
So what's it, like 3-4 hours worth of matches?
But yeah, about 3.5 hours. You guys will get a link as well. We will give you a link so you can watch along. It'll have a number on there so you know, okay, we're talking about match number 2 now. We're talking about match number 3. Because it will get confusing because there's, like 7 straight Jumping Bomb Angels Glamour Girls matches. But that's the art of this, the deep dive, is that we will watch all those. And there's stuff that you can pick up on. There's different stories being told in these matches. There's stories getting carried over. There's things that, little things here and there. I mean, this is all carefully done. This is the days when wrestling was, when wrestling was wrestling, Joe. God damn it, where there's some fun stuff to talk about in each one of these matches. So yeah, it is extensive, it is long, but it will definitely be worth it. And I'm really excited to do this show. So we've watched them. Basically, I watched all the matches, I don't know, like 6 months ago when we first had this idea, and then we just got too busy and a bunch of shit has happened. But now we finally things have cooled down a little bit, so we're gonna dust it off and get it ready to go this weekend for you guys. So.
No WWE, no Asuka, no Io Shirai. Who could possibly care? We're not going to do any of that because you all just watched it. Like, that's happening in real time. So this is WWF only, and we're finally going to get it on tape this weekend. Needed to carve out the time, so that'll be this weekend. So again, great month to subscribe. So
getting a lot in March. Jeez, I was getting spoiled. It's a secret. I did 2 secret shows last night too. So
secret shows
are gonna pop up in.
There's such secrets I don't know about.
You don't know about them, yeah. You're I don't know if you're gonna be happy with them. You get buried a lot in these shows, so I'll just let you know.
I get buried. Oh well, all right. Who the hell's on them?
The nurse is on them. So.
Oh well, I mean, I don't know what her beef is. I'm nothing but nice and kind to this woman.
It's not about your personality. It's about the things that you put in your body. Is I think what she has some beef with. So
I don't mind being the butt of jokes. I'm East Coast. I could take it. So that's fine.
I don't think there was any joking. She's pretty upset about you for something.
Upset about me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take another cig of this delicious Coke Z.
It's not Coke Z. It's fine. You're. I think she's okay with the Coke Z. I think it's other things. Did
Joe eat stuff?
Well, she's very jealous about that because she was like, one day she was like, hey, what if I eat something and like you talk about it on Patreon? I'm like, Joe already does that. It's Joe Eats. Like, you knew it. And she knew it too. And I was like, Joe does that. Yeah. You can't just like, well, I'm not going to do Michelle Eats. Like, that's Joe Eats. And she was like, oh, okay. And the guy like actually upset about it. Like, I think she wanted an excuse to eat terrible food. Like you, she wanted to monetize the terrible food. So she's thinking, cool, I'll eat this like horrendous Little Caesars, whatever, because then, you'll buy it for me and you won't like, we will feel no shame in this household because we'll be doing an audio about it.
Right.
Very similar to what you do, where you're like, honey, look, I have to eat this. Like, it's not, I don't want to, I have to.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I try to monetize. I mean, I monetize my wedding ceremony.
That's true.
I want to monetize.
I still can't believe you did that. I cannot believe you did that.
Why not?
I wish I saved the text message where I'm like, Joe, are you sure? Like, you really want me to do this? And you're like, yeah, man, come on. I was like, have you asked Brittany? She's like, she doesn't care. She's fine. Like,
nah, she didn't care.
I was like, are you sure? Like, I want this marriage to last beyond the weekend. So let's make sure that she's okay with this. So
she thought it was funny.
Okay, good. Yeah, I thought she always has a sense of humor. I thought so. She's married to you, so she's got to know the score at some point.
Do you know what she deals with on a daily basis?
I was gonna say. I mean, yeah, it's got to be pretty terrible. So I mean, in a good way. Do you
know how many running bits I have going in this house? Like, it's impossible to keep track. Just imagine this show. Like, this is me. Like, that's what goes on in this house. I mean, so yeah, she didn't care. We're sitting there waiting for the fucking guy, and I'm like, oh man, I should monetize this. It just popped in my head. I'm like, we should make people will pay to watch this.
I remember you got upset because you were like, they said they're going to upload it in a minute. Is it up there yet? And I'm like, I don't see it. Like, damn it. Like, let me ask the guy. I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah. I'm
like Joe, you just got married. Like, I will go do whatever you're going to do. I will check this website where you say it's going to get uploaded. And in another hour or so, if it's not uploaded, I will let you know. But you're like, let me talk to this guy. See what's going on here.
I did. Yeah. I gave her a kiss and was like, all right, I gotta go talk to this guy. So I blew her off. I went and I was like, listen, where you say you can upload that? I got paying customers here, The guy looked at me like I was from another planet. He's like, what are you paying customers? I'm like, come on. I got people to want to see this. I'm like, can I get a timeline, please? I got to take care of my.
I like that you surprised the shotgun wedding guy, the guy who God only knows what that guy is seeing on a daily basis, and still he's like, oh my God, what? Like, are you kidding?
Well, they had in the office of a running video of all the different celebrities that had gotten married there, right? All these famous people. I don't remember specifically who it was. I was like, any chance I could get up there? And he's like, well, who are you?
What do you mean? Who am I? Are you kidding me?
I'm like, sir, I'm the king of banter. I mean,
the Kenta Kobashi of sex. Have you not heard of me? Like,
yeah, I mean, seriously. So I'm showing him the website and the podcast and everything, and he's like,
oh my God.
He wasn't impressed. No. So suffice to say,
he's like, well, no, Burt Reynolds stays. You don't get on there. You're like, all right, whatever. Like, have it your way, buddy. All right.
Because there were some like low level pro athletes and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know.
Do you remember one of them? I'll try to think if that person is.
I wish.
Well, you have to go back. You'll have to go back and take some pictures. So
I wish I did, but there were just like lame like NBA bench jockeys and stuff, and I'm like, I could maybe talk my way onto this montage.
Yeah, Bobby Hurley. I'm better than Bobby fucking Hurley. Come on, like.
And then when other people are sitting here in the lobby, they're gonna be like, "Who the fuck is that?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, who's that guy? Why is he up there? With my shit-eating grin on my face. But he wouldn't play ball. But yeah, we got that video uploaded. I love like right during the crucial moment of the marriage. A siren's going off. There's like an ambulance going by.
You can't hear anything. You can't hear any of the vows because it's like Brittany. Wow. It's like, oh my God, Jesus Christ! Like the most important moment of that woman's life. Like she's so happy that this.
It's tremendous.
Like you don't care. You're laughing. Like because the sirens are loud and they don't stop. And like you can tell she's just like she's laughing, but she's probably just like, oh God, what a disaster. You're yucking it up. You're laughing. This is all on Patreon, by the way. If people want to find this, I think
if you watch it, it's like I am holding in laughter the entire time. Like I find the whole thing ludicrous. The guy marrying us was, he's like a imposter Elvis for his other job. Like he wasn't doing the Elvis gimmick.
He looks like a guy that you say, wow, that guy could be an imposter Elvis, and it's like, oh yeah, I am. Don't worry.
But he really is an Elvis impersonator. Like one of the options is to have him marry you as Elvis, right? But neither one of us are Elvis marks, so we didn't do that. But you can clearly see the guy has like the fucking coiffed hairdo and everything. He looks like a guy that would be an Elvis impersonator. So it's like, it's so hard to take it. So I'm just ready to burst out laughing. But yeah, I just wanted to get the video up and then go back to the room and fuck is honestly what I was thinking about at that time. But I had to make sure the video got up first, Because Rich, I don't know if you know this, but I saved myself until marriage. So
of course.
I was very excited.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Finally to consummate the marriage finally that night. So
yeah, I was very excited about that. Yeah. The first time sex, it was a very tender moment for me, but
you cried a little bit, right? I'm sure.
Tears. Well, wait, during the sex?
Well, no,
let's
after.
Not go too far with the bit here because I did not cry during the sex, but I'm not willing to go that far for the bit, but have you cried during sex?
No.
Like, what were the circumstances?
No,
we get whipped with a belt or something?
Yeah, no, I have not.
Okay.
That'd be strange. That'd be bad.
Tears can be erotic. We probably shouldn't go down that road.
Yeah, let's. That's a different show. That's a different show. Not one that I want to be a part of, to be honest. So.
Good transition to the death of Jim Crockett Jr.
I was gonna say, well, we have a lot of topics to talk about this week, but the main one. Okay, you know what? We need a little bit of a gap here, so I will run over the other topics we're going to talk about. Then that will be enough space between the crying during sex and the discussion of the death of Jim Crockett. So
this is the portion of the show where Rich tugs his collar.
Yeah, the collar is very tugged right now. AEW Revolution, we'll do our extensive preview about that show. We'll talk about Shaq making his AEW debut. Probably get into some random 90s NBA talk. As well. Hopefully, it will be very tough to not do it, so we'll see what we can do here. The new AEW signee, teased by Paul White on Dynamite. We'll talk a little bit about that, get some wild speculation. Moxley versus Kenta happened this week. I can't believe Moxley versus Kenta was just this past week. Seems like so long ago. 2 Castle Attack shows, a 40th anniversary show for New Japan. New Japan getting fucking weird as hell and crazy and creating a new title for some goddamn reason. And then also running Yokohama Stadium and Tokyo Dome this spring as well. So a lot of New Japan randomness to talk about. And then, of course, probably at the end here, we'll touch on NXT moving to Tuesdays. Not official yet, but as official as you could be without literally saying we're moving to Tuesday. So we'll talk about that, kind of the end of the Wednesday Night Wars or whatever this thing is that we're going to call it here, and just kind of the whole experiment of moving NXT to Wednesday and going head to head, or not moving. They were their first show. I don't know if you knew that, but the experiment of existing to take down AEW and how that worked. But unfortunately, we'll start out with some sad news here about the death of Jim Crockett Jr. And for people that are like kind of Wrestling Observer listeners, you kind of had an idea that this was happening. Dave basically last week about at the same time was touching on Jim Crockett having a lot of health issues. He had I think kidney issues for a long time. He was on dialysis, all that sort of stuff. Well, he caught COVID, and that did not go well when you have kidney issues and organ issues already. And I think he was in just a lot of pain. Stuff was shutting down, and he finally decided a few days ago he was going to take himself off dialysis and just kind of enter hospice care. And unfortunately, it did not take long after that. Once you take yourself off dialysis, it's just a matter of days. And unfortunately, it was just a matter of days for Jim Crockett Jr. So Jim Crockett Jr. dies age 76. Let's talk a little bit Jim Crockett Jr. I mean, we've if you really want like extensive Crockett Jr. discussions, which I'm sure we'll do a little bit of that here, but like every single year on the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, when we touch on the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, we talk about Jim Crockett Jr. because I've always voted for Jim Crockett Jr. I always thought that he deserved inclusion in there. I always thought, one of the more influential and powerful promoters of his era, one of the more successful promoters, despite what happened, at the end of his run. But I was always kind of a Jim Crockett Jr. supporter. I was kind of always boggled my mind that he wasn't in the Observer Hall of Fame and that he didn't get much in the way of votes. But overall, what do you think of when you heard the news of Jim Crockett Jr.'s death, and I guess just a little bit about him as we kind of discuss his life and his career here?
Well, I think that Jim Crockett Promotions, when they were really cooking and they were really at their hottest, is, for my money, the greatest period of any territory in the history of American wrestling. Probably that period where Dusty is booking. So I'd probably say from about 85 to 87. If you really want to extend it, you can say maybe 84, mid 84 to the sale, if you really want to stretch it out. But I think 87 is really the end of the real peak, in my opinion. I think the sale was in 88 when they sold to Turner.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you really want to extend it out, you could say maybe like 84 till the sale. But really that 85 to 87 period, I mean, that shit is just so good. I mean, to me, for my money, that's peak pro wrestling. That is just peak pro wrestling. And it was just, and I'm talking the Dusty, Magnum, Ronnie Garvin on the babyface side, battling the Horsemen every night. And then you throw the Russians in the mix, and man, that just will never be replicated again. It was just a special place and time. And it really was only a 2 or 3 year period, maybe 3.5, 4 years if you're being generous. But that's why I would always say when New Japan was going strong, I always said on this show, appreciate it. Take the time to appreciate what you're watching. We're very lucky to be in this place and time with modern New Japan. I would always say that. And it was very odd that hot period of New Japan lasted about 8 years. And I am of the firm belief that it ended the night that Tetsuya Naito won the double titles at the Tokyo Dome, as all those stories wrapped up. And I do believe we're in a new era of New Japan. But that lasted 7 or 8 years, and that's so unusual. That hot period of Crockett, like I said, maybe 2 or 3 years. You look at other hot periods in other companies. Rich, Attitude Era. Would you put it from Montreal till the Austin turn? Is that fair?
That's about that's the timeline that I go with. So yeah, I go November 97, November 97 to April 2001. So essentially, you can call all of 98, all of 99, all of 2000, then a few other months after that. So 3.5 years basically. Okay,
so again, you look at ECW. I mean, I would say 95 till Barely Legal. If you want to get liberal with it, maybe 94 till Barely. But still, what are you dealing with? 2 or 3 years. You talk about Ring of Honor. I would say about 2005 till 2007, maybe 2008. You want to get generous and say 2004 till Gabe was fired in 2009. you're talking again 3-4 years tops. Peak Ring of Honor. You go right down the line. You have to appreciate when these promotions get hot. WCW, when the outsiders show up, when Scott Hall walks out to Nitro until what, 99? Is that fair? 98?
Even there, yeah. I mean, honestly, you could probably cut it off if you want to. If you want to be generous about it, I would say, yeah, call it May 1996 when the outsiders show up or Scott Hall shows up till, if you want to, December 98, basically. Or you know what? You use the finger poke of doom. January 1999, and then after that point, it's pretty much done. So
yeah, and even if you want to have the start point be the beginning of Nitro, that's still September 95.
Yeah, exactly.
So 90. So you're still, again, these hot periods usually go about 3 years, 3-4 years, where it's red hot. And Crockett, when people talk about Jim Crockett Promotions and how great it was, they're talking about that period from about 85 to 87 with Dusty as the booker. But Jim Crockett Jr. took over in the 70s. He went through a number of bookers. I mean, he had George Scott early, who did a great job. In the period right before Dusty, well, I guess Ole Anderson was in the mix.
I think, yeah. And again, I would. That's more of an exact question for a Chris Zellner type or whatever. But yeah, I believe it was George Scott was the first one to kind of take it under. I think he was already there when Senior still had the company, but then Jim Crockett Jr. kind of inherited him. Then I think there was Ole. Then I think it was Dusty, right? Or then it was Dory Funk was in there too.
You're missing Dory Funk. Dory Funk handled the early Starcades. But it had a different feel during those years. It really became what people think of the hot when Dusty, it was his baby.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I remember when I maybe the early days of the network, or even like WWE 24/7, they had a lot of NWA content on there, and I remember initially jumping to, or maybe I downloaded a pack or something like that, and I went right to like 83 because there's always the famous Ric Flair Dusty Rhodes cage match of Starrcade 83. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, here we go, and that show is like not that. It's just like not what I expected that I was going to get. It feels more of the 70s. It feels of a completely different era. And I was like, man, I really kind of thought this was, because I seen little bits and pieces of, like you're saying, the 85 to kind of, to me, 87, 88, that range. I've seen a bunch of that stuff, and I was like, I don't know, man, this doesn't like really kind of land with me. Maybe this isn't as good as I thought. And then I popped over to like, in 1985, and it's like, oh, this is what I wanted. This fucking rocks. This is awesome. This is incredible. So yeah, you're right. There's that temptation to immediately go to like, Starrcade 83 or whatever, and it's like, it's an important show and it's an interesting show, but like the things really get rocking by like 85, 86, 87. That's when it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Dory, not my favorite booker either.
No, yeah, kind of boring. I'll be honest, but hey, important, but pretty boring. So
yeah, but the Dusty years were great, and then Crockett Jr. had the guts to attempt to go head to head with Vince on a national level when none of the other guys really did. A lot of the other promoters just tried to beat Vince locally. That was never going to work. He was going to buy the TV time. He was going to steal all your talent, and then he was going to come back to your town with that talent. And that's what he did to a lot of these guys. And a lot of guys just threw in the towel early and just sold out to him. Crockett decided to fight. And it was an uphill battle that he wasn't going to win. But he decided to, expand, to Philly and into New York and all of these strongholds that were Vince strongholds. And it was just too much to overcome. And then eventually, they obviously sell to Turner in November. I think it was late 88.
Yeah, I believe, either September or November 88.
But Crockett made a lot of big business moves over the years. I mean, I think a lot of people forget he was tied in with the Toronto territory until Frank Tunney died, and then of course Jack Tunney switched allegiances to Vince McMahon, which is why he was the kayfabe president. President Jack Tunney. That was the connection there with the Toronto territory, and Crockett was the one who bought the TBS time slot back from Vince McMahon after that was a total bomb for Vince because the viewers rejected it.
Mm-hmm. And gave him a $300,000 profit on it too, which
and
helped fund WrestleMania, unfortunately. So
yeah. I mean, Crockett bought it from him, and really that's really what springboarded Crockett into that hot period, and that's what I'm talking about. That was around 80. That was 85.
Yep, exactly.
So, one mistake that Crockett made is when they bought, when Bill Watts threw in the towel and sold the UWF to Crockett, he made the classic promoter mistake that we've seen repeated over and over and over, in that he immediately buried all of the UWF guys and beat them.
Right. He established that my guys are better than these UWF guys, which, does not make a very, very good invasion, because when you establish that these other guys are geeks and your guys are the stars, then nobody really gives a shit that these guys are invading your company. So, yeah.
I mean, you own it. It's yours. Make it look strong. You could win in the end and then do what you're going to do, and make new stars out of it. But no, it just – and, we saw that repeat with Vince McMahon with the Invasion.
Yep.
The Invasion pay-per-view does that huge buy rate, or 700,000 buys or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in there, 700, 800,000, something like that. But, yeah, an incredible buy rate for – and, by the way, the Invasion had sucked before that, too. People were still invested in it to the point of that Invasion pay-per-view, and then decided finally, okay, this actually sucks, so we're done.
The biggest non-WrestleMania total number of pay-per-view buys. I don't want to say buy rate and piss off Chris Harrington. Total number of pay-per-view buys to that point in history. And then Vince did the same thing that Crockett did. He just overwhelmed. The ego gets in the way. You have to prove that my guys are better than your guys. And it sucks all the money out of it. They could have made millions and millions of dollars on the Invasion. We don't need to go back down that road. But the same thing happened on a smaller scale with the UWF purchase. And, they just beat all those guys, and all the WCW guys won. And, that really could have been – look, I don't think it was going to save them. At that point, it's too late. And then by 88, Dusty's booking just, it's too repetitive. And we all know the issues with Dusty's booking, and it all fell apart. And then they just sold to Turner in 88. And that was it. And Crockett Jr. took over, I think, in the mid-70s. I mean, Jim Crockett probably died in 1973.
Yeah, 73. Yeah, Jim Crockett Sr. died in 1973. And Crockett Jr. took over. So there was a brother-in-law who was there, but then he divorced and exiled from the family, and then Jim Crockett Jr., who I think at that point was either 29 or 30, took over. Which is just unbelievable. Imagine like a major wrestling promotion going to a 30-year-old right now. You know what I mean? Like,
history. Well, I mean, we're seeing it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, what's Tony Khan, 36 or something?
Somewhere around there. He's right around my age, I think. Yeah.
So, you've been kayfabing your age lately. You know why? I'm going to tell you why.
I don't know what it is. He's 38 actually, so he's 4 years old.
He's 38. Yeah, he's in between us. You've been kayfabing your age because I think you feel like you're getting older.
Well, I'm getting to the point where when the show first started, I called you old all the time. And now I'm that age that you were when we started.
You're like older than I was.
Yeah. So I can't be the look at old ass Joe here. What are you, 34? And you're like, Rich, 34 is not bad. Like I'm still getting it done. I'm still in the bedroom. I remember early days. Yeah. I make fun of you. Like, hey, 34. I'm still making it work in the bedroom. It's fine. It's good.
I want to make it clear that my penis is still tremendous.
Right. Despite no matter what.
To make it clear, listen, I'll bring TLB in here to verify if you want me to. But
I do not. No, I do not. I trust.
Okay.
The words, so.
But just in case, I mean, there's no problems in that department. I will pop the occasional, gas station pill or novelty,
the big rhino,
black market Viagra novelty. But that's just for shits and giggles, and it's always a terrifying experience. I don't recommend that. If you have a healthy penis and you take those things, it's like your boner. It feels like it's going to tear your skin. It's just don't do it. You get a headache. You get delirious.
Sounds awesome. But, that sounds great.
No, it's absolutely terrible. But anyway, I wanted to clarify that, just so no one misunderstands.
Yes.
Okay. My penis is still very healthy, but you may continue.
But no, I'm definitely there. So yeah, he was like 29 or 30 when he took over the company, and yeah, it's just like crazy young. At that age, and I think who was there was the other Crockett, the one who ended up being the cameraman or production guy, David, right?
David Crockett,
yeah, and he was like a little even younger than him, and he was like, because I think the story was that Jim Crockett Jr. was like, nah, I'm good, I don't really want to be in wrestling, and it was just like at a certain point, it just kind of came to like, hey, here you go, this company's yours now, and he's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do it, and that's where George Scott, the early days of George Scott, really kind of helped him, guided him. Through that, and then obviously, then he kind of got a feel for it, got a little bit of love for it, and was a pretty big player in the industry. I mean, and that's always been the thing where I cannot believe that there's that much of an argument about him for the Observer Hall of Fame. We don't have to do that sort of show. We don't have to do it. But like Jim Crockett Sr. is in, Jim Crockett Jr. is still not in, and it's like, dude, from 1973 to 1987. I mean, that's a pretty goddamn good run of a guy really making it work. Like financially, just buying, successful in his own territory, realizing, fuck, if I want to compete with this Vince McMahon guy, I got to buy stuff up. So he starts going there, and he's neck and neck with Vince until literally the final year when he just can't do it anymore. It just exhausts him completely. Vince has got a little bit more of his edge. He's got a little bit more. He can play the pay-per-view companies a little bit more than Crockett could, and that's essentially what does it in. Or, Crockett then also gets a little silly on his own right and says, oh, I need to, I'm going to run Starrcade from, Chicago because that, and it's like, dude, no, just do what you but again, like that was the temptation, is if you're gonna survive, you either sell to Vince, in terms of like survive for your own well-being and your own, is you're just gonna say, here you go, just take my money and then give me a job or whatever. And half the people got jobs and other people were told just go fuck themselves. Jerry Briscoe, he was given a job forever. Jack Tunney was given a job forever. A bunch of guys were given jobs forever. Other guys were told, yeah, you're gonna get a job, and then they were immediately fired and sent away and gone or whatever. So you could survive your life that way, or you could fight. You know what I mean? Like you could go at it, and very few companies were able to do it. Bill Watts tried it. He wasn't able to do it. Eventually Crockett takes over Bill Watts. Crockett's the last guy. That 88, when that's done, it's done. And Vince has won the war. He's destroyed the territories. He's done all that sort of stuff. And I feel like unfairly, Jim Crockett Jr. gets sort of, he gets a lot of the blame for Jim Crockett Promotions failing. And it's like, what would have been different if, like, or how differently would we perceive him if in 1986 Vince goes, hey, for $2 million, I'll give you sell me Jim Crockett Promotions. If he just goes, oh, okay, and does it, like, do we consider him an all-time great wrestling booker or an all-time great wresling promoter? Or do we care too much about the last 2 years where it goes downhill? Like, I just don't know if that's fair. If, like, 15 years of success, it gets completely negated because of 2 years of negativity. I don't know. I just don't love that.
Yeah, he went down swinging. I mean, you got to respect that.
I respect the hell out of it. That's why I've always said, no, I'm not going to blame him for going down like that. I'm not, because nobody else did. There was 130 other people just said, well, fuck it. All right, we're done. Like,
yeah. I mean, they see him as losing the war,
right?
And that's like the black mark. But yeah, I agree that
everybody lost the war. He fought the longest in the war. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'm giving you, get a purple medal for that one. Like,
yeah.
Everybody lost. Every wrestling promoter from centuries lost the war. Like Don Owen gets credit for just kind of like existing in his own little world and being like, oh God, don't come here, Fitz, don't come here. You know what I mean? Like, and that's cool. Like, I'm glad, but like, I don't think that he deserves any more credit than a Jim Crockett does. But
yeah. And he also had the benefit of wrestlers standing up for him and refusing to work. Like Roddy Piper would not work that area of the country for Vince.
Right.
And Piper was a big enough star to get away with it. To say, I'm not working shows in Portland. I'm not doing it. I'm not going head to head with this man. I owe him my life, and he could stand up to Vince and pull that off. So that helped a lot too. And wasn't there a situation where WWF didn't even run in Oregon for many years because of some kind of tax thing? Or
I think so. Yeah, they very rarely ran Oregon. Yeah, I forget what it was. Probably some sort of,
because of the way wrestling was classified or something.
Yeah, it was some sort of commission thing or blood testing or something wild like that. That made it a reason why very similar to why nobody runs in Missouri ever. Even St. Louis Anarchy runs across the river in Illinois. So
right, yeah. So, but yeah, that 85 to 87 period. I mean, they were just red. I mean, the crowds were red hot. Everything is red hot.
Yeah.
The television is red hot. The Great American Bash shows are red hot. I mean, the crowds are just molten. So you could see why they thought they had a real chance to compete. And they would go to Philly and have hot crowds. They'd go to Chicago and have hot crowds. They just weren't big enough crowds. And you're fighting this unbeatable monster. And, eventually they went down and did sell to Turner. And then it's funny because Turner, George Scott came back in the early days of the Turner-led WCW, but he had been gone from wrestling for so long that he was horrendous in that run as booker. George Scott was the guy who he hired the Iron Sheik because the Iron Sheik had just come off WWF TV. And he was just thinking that oh, well, in 1984, whatever the fuck, this guy was a huge star.
Right, so 1989. This should be
so
good.
He brings
yeah.
in Iron Sheik, and Iron Sheik is just, he's horrendous to the point that he's useless, and they can't even put him on TV. So they send him home to just sit out the rest of his contract. And it's like $100,000 contract. And he's sitting home just doing nothing and getting paid. They forget that they sent him home. Like, they forgot about him. And his contract had a rollover in it if they didn't fire him at the end of year one. And they forgot he was sitting home, and the contract rolled over, and they had to pay him a whole nother year to do nothing because he was so horrible. Like, that's how the George Scott era went the second time around. That just encapsulates how awful.
And I think one of the other issues with Jim Crockett Jr. Potentially, and the way people kind of perceive his run as well, is I think he gets a lot of undue sort of kind of backlash or shrapnel, whatever you want to say, for like the early days of like the Turner run WCW, which he's out. I mean, like, you really look at his run, he's done. He's out of there by 88. He's not involved in anything. I think he had a job for like 2 more days, and then they're like, oh, actually, you know what, get out of here. Like, he was supposed to get some job. They were going to hire, all the Crockett's, and he was supposed to be some sort of consultant. And yeah, I think that lasted like literally 2 days. I think George Scott took over, right? Didn't he? And tell him to go fucking hit the bricks.
I think Scott was the next booker. There might have been,
something happened where Crockett was basically a Turner employee for like 3 days, and then told, actually, this isn't going to work. Go away.
But he remained in charge of the NWA.
Right. And that's another thing too. So I think he gets some blowback for the early days of WCW, which is always a fucking train wreck for examples like that. And that's one of like about 1,000 different examples where at that point he's done, so he doesn't deserve that criticism anymore. He deserves up to 87, 88. Give him all the criticism you want for the way that he ran that company. I still think going down fighting is pretty cool. And then he gets a lot of shit for the death of the NWA, but it's like, what the hell was he supposed to do? Like, the NWA was completely decimated by Vince McMahon. Like, Jim Crockett was just given the NWA because they had nobody else to fucking run the thing anymore. Nobody was in business anymore. So it's like, here you go, buddy. And then he's like, well, what the hell do you want me to do with the NWA? And then the NWA cracks and crumbles as well. And it's like, look at Jim Crockett. It's the fuck. He survives and gets all the shit that everybody else that bowed out and pieced out, they get nothing. I don't know.
He was the NWA president during the time he was running Jim Crockett Promotions. And that's why he changed a lot of the branding to NWA. Because he was the NWA president. He remained the NWA president after he sold. And then really, and I'm talking about this on Jovember right now because we're in that period on Jovember to Remember, where a lot of people may not realize this. When Paul Heyman, so Eddie Gilbert hired Paul. He brought Paul Heyman into ECW just to help him out for a while and be a talent and to help with the booking a little bit. When Gilbert was booking ECW for Todd Gordon. And Heyman was just biding time because the original WWN, which was going to be Paul Heyman and Jim Crockett, was going to get going as soon as Crockett's non-compete ended. Okay, they had a dummy owner at first, just for legal purposes, but Crockett was going to step in when his non-compete ended, and Heyman was going to be the booker. And they were going to shoot this new promotion, WWN, starting in 94. And Heyman was ECW was just a pit stop. And then he was going to go run this thing with Crockett.
They were like an internet. They were trying to do internet stuff too, right?
They were going to shoot in HD in 1994.
Jesus.
This is how forward-thinking Heyman has always been. He knew that HD was the future. And he wanted to shoot this in HD as early as 1994. I didn't know what HD was in 1994. So he was thinking 10 steps ahead. But when the WWN thing fell apart, they allegedly ran that show in Fort Hood, which a lot of people dispute ever even happened. But the thing about that Fort Hood show, and this is all done in excruciating detail on Jovember, these are the cliff notes, is I found Dean Malenko went on AEW, what do they call their podcast with Girl Hebner and
the Unrestricted or whatever. Yeah, I think it's Unrestricted, yeah.
So a lot of people doubt that the Fort Hood show happened because they claim there were 8,000 fans, but they didn't film it. Oh, darn.
Whoops, I forgot to hit record. Oh, man.
And the reports that got sent to the Torch and the Observer were scary similar. Everyone just assumes they were from Heyman. You know what I mean? And they said that Jake Roberts was he channeled the past and had this incredible match.
Right, of course. Every match was great. Yeah, believe it or not.
And there was this 35-minute best of 3 falls tag with the Kimono Dragons versus I forget who the opponents were. And one of those masked Kimono Dragons was Dean Malenko filling in for Eddie Guerrero, who couldn't make the booking. And Malenko, and everyone has doubted that the show took place, or Malenko went on the Unrestricted podcast and confirmed the story. He didn't name it by name, but he said in passing, "Oh yeah, I did this booking for Paul Heyman once where I was a dragon. I was a kimono dragon."
Oh, there you go.
And I was like, "Holy shit, that's the
it's
show."
real
like,
then. Yeah,
it's real. Like, I don't know if there were 7,000 fans there or whatever. That might be, but the match, that match happened. Was it a 40-minute best of 3 falls 5-star classic like it was presented to the sheets? I don't know. But at minimum, we know that Malenko worked that match on that show. But that was, the first attempt at a WWN show. And then I think they did a taping in New York.
Manhattan Center. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. Manhattan Center, February 28th, 1994.
And they wanted to build around Road Warrior Hawk as a top guy. And, because he was he was doing ECW shots around that time as well. But Heyman wanted to build around Road Warrior Hawk and Conan and believe it or not, Hugh whatever Hugh Morris's name was, Crash the Terminator. The typical Paul Heyman thinking for like a guy like who else would book Crash the Terminator?
Right, Hugh Morris, 1994, and build a company around him. Yeah.
But that was kind of the idea, and then mix in people like Jake Roberts and whatnot, just to get people in the door.
Yeah, Bob Orton. I'm looking at this show. You got you got Bob Orton, Jake Roberts, a few older guys as well.
You have the Fort Hood show available?
I can try to get it. Yeah, here, let me try to get it for you.
See if you can find that Fort Hood show. I can't remember who the Kimono Dragons faced, but with this alleged 5-star match, best of 3 falls. But it was Ted Petty and the future Rocco Rock, and Dean Malenko as the Kimono Dragons. I just cannot remember. The opponents may have been...
Okay, so we got the Kimono Dragons, Dean Malenko and Ted Petty beats Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond.
I was going to say bad company.
37 minutes, 3 falls here for this guy. This is there's a lot of long matches on this alleged show here. Jake Roberts and Bob Orton Jr. apparently went 34 minutes. That seems like a lot. So
and in the show reports, they allegedly tore the house down.
Oh, I'm sure. That's a 34-minute 1993 Jake Roberts Bob Orton Jr. match.
Think about those two guys in 1993.
Yeah, I don't. I wasn't there, obviously, but that sounds like a dubious claim that they tore the house down and channeled their themselves from 10 years ago at that point. There, I guess Jake a little bit less than 10, but Bob Orton, you got to really go back to get him back in his working days, I guess.
Think about Jake in that era. We've seen the AAA matches from that era.
WCW matches. That's like pretty because the Halloween Havoc is 92. Like,
that's not even 93 yet. And then by 94, his life's in shambles. He no-shows Smoky Mountain. It's just it's very, very.
In between all that, he went to Fort Hood and had a 34-minute 5-star classic with Bob Orton Jr. So.
Yeah, and Hawk forgot his gear and had to wear Nails backup prison jumpsuit on the show. It was just
because he faced the convict, Kevin Walkowitz or whatever. So on that
show,
so
right. And
that sounds awesome. This sounds like a great promotion. I wish these shows are.
People have been looking for that tape for 27 years, and it's never going to turn up. But anyway, that was Jim Crockett. That was going to be his next project when his non-compete, and he was going to have Paul Heyman as his booker. He was going to shoot in HD, and those are the 2 shows that they ran. So the original WWN. And then after that, he basically threw his hands at pro wrestling and just got into whatever other business he was going to get into.
Some sort of insurance, or I think he was selling houses or something like that. Yeah, I forget what it was exactly. But
in Texas. I think he owned the Sportatorium for a short time before they tore it down. But he was going to do a podcast with Conrad as part of the Conrad universe, and
he did one. I believe he did one. He did one conversations with Conrad, but then nothing after that, which stinks because
I think he got sick.
Yeah, because this what sucks is because he's a guy who he popped up during some of those Death of WCW, Monday Night Wars, early WWE DVDs that they did in the 2000s. But other than that, he really didn't talk much about wrestling. He was kind of like, nah, I'm done with it. I'm over it. I'm moving on. But it seemed like in recent years he was opening up a little bit more to say, hey, you know what? Let me tell this story. And that's kind of one of the shames of it is right as he starts kind of ramping it up and saying, you know what? Yeah, let me talk about my life and the history of the business and all that sort of stuff. Is when he gets sick and now has passed away. So it sucks. There's a lot of knowledge that just died earlier this week and went away. So that sucks.
Yeah, his perspective will never be heard now. And you can't hear that, do you? I had a video playing by accident.
No, I did not.
Yeah, it's those stories from his perspective will never be told. And then WWN fell apart, and Heyman had no backup plan. I mean, he was in the middle of that lawsuit with WCW, and then he finessed his way into Eddie Gilbert's job. And there's different stories to that. I'm putting it all together. That's going to be not the next Jovember, but maybe the one after that, where I get into how Heyman took over from Gilbert. But I was watching. Have you ever seen Looking for Mr. Gilbert? The shoot interview with Eddie Gilbert from February '94.
I don't think so. It's
considered the first shoot interview in the way that we know them today, because he's in a hotel room and it's Bob Barnett who's doing the interview.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's almost 2 hours long, and it's like this legendary collector's thing. I think it's on YouTube, but Looking for Mr. Gilbert, February '94, about a year before he died, he sat down and did the first of, like, now it doesn't seem like anything because
everybody goes to a hotel room and does the shoot interview, with what's his face and kayfabe commentaries and those guys. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. That's exact format. But for the time, it was like, whoa, and he's shooting, and they don't really talk about ECW a ton because this was done in February '94, and ECW really wasn't a big deal yet. It was just a footnote on Gilbert's career to that point. He was only there 3-4 months. And when they get to that part in the interview, they don't even name ECW by name. Barnett's like, oh, tell me what happened in Philly, right? And Gilbert, and it's so it's almost sad because you see his body language change, and he just goes, well, yeah, I was there for a couple months and we were doing some good things, but Paul learned from me. And it's just I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. I don't remember exact, and
the backstabber got backstabbed. He's like, damn it. God damn it.
He's like, all I'm going to say is Paul learned from me. And he's deflated because ECW, I really think Eddie Gilbert saw that as his chance to be the Jerry Lawler of Philly. And he saw the potential there, and he knew that could be a big thing. And he was right. But
just not with him. He wasn't going to be involved. So.
Heyman finessed him out. And look, it's not like Heyman Gilbert shot himself in the foot. You're getting a free Jovember episode.
I was going to say, yeah. This is, usually I have to pay $5 for this, but I guess no, not anymore.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff we do on Jovember, though. A little plug here. But Gilbert shot himself in the foot, too. I mean, he, allegedly tried to fuck Todd Gordon's wife. It's Eddie Gilbert.
Yeah, you don't even. There's a very good chance. Allegedly, he tried to, but there's probably 90% chance that did occur. Yes, because
he tried to leverage
Eddie Gilbert.
Yeah, he tried to leverage Todd Gordon for a raise by saying that that Jim Crockett offered him the booking job for the WWN project, and Gordon was suspicious, and he went to Heyman and asked him about it, and Heyman said, "Todd, that can't be true." And Gordon was like, well, how do you know? He goes, because I'm already the booker.
Because I'm him. Yeah.
He's like, that's my job. I'm booking the shows. We've run, And then at that point, Gordon lost trust, obviously. And then that was it. But I'll save the rest of the story because I go way deeper on Jovember. I already started recording some of that. But yeah, that's kind of like how Jim Crockett and WWN ties into the history of ECW as well. Because Heyman was just there to be a manager, and he did have a hand in some of the creative. If you look at the old credits on those 93 shows, Paul Heyman's listed as an associate producer or something. It was the Gilberts. It was Eddie Gilbert, Doug Gilbert, Jerry Lawler's son, Freddie Gilbert, the evil ref, and Heyman. That was the room. But Eddie Gilbert clearly in control and booking for that period. So anyway, that was how Jim Crockett tied in to ECW with WWN. But yeah, it's a shame that he wasn't able to do those podcasts with Conrad.
I know. I was really looking forward to them. I'm actually probably going to listen to the I haven't yet listened to the one that he did, but I might jump into those just because I've always been interested in that time period and how things went down with Crockett. But I mean, most of that stuff's on the network. I mean, it's not hard to find if we've piqued your interest a little bit. 1985, man, just watch the Saturday nights, watch the 605s, watch the Starcades, I don't know. You really can't go wrong. 85 to 88, there's good shit in pretty much all that. So
I think it's interesting when George Scott comes back in '89 and he's so lost that we've seen that repeat over and over and over. We've seen Bill Watts. Remember when McMahon hired Bill Watts?
Yes, of course.
After he, long after the Hank Aaron stuff and the interview with Wade Keller, and Watts lasted like 3 months or something. Maybe not even that long.
No. I covered it in a what did I cover it in? One of the retro shows that I did, and it lasted literally. The Observer 1 week is Bill Watts has been hired and given unilateral control of creative at World Wrestling Federation as Vince McMahon has decided that he no longer has his finger on the pulse, and he wanted Bill Watts, and like literally the next month is like Bill Watts is relieved of his duties. As far as it lasted like literally a week and a half. Yeah. We saw it when Eric Bischoff returned to run SmackDown. Right. Well, because the idea was Bill Watts said, okay, I will do this job, but you have to let me do whatever. And Vince said, it's your job, pal. It's all you. And Bill Watts went, okay, I want to do this. And Vince went, actually, we're going to do this. And he was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. So it lasted literally one booking meeting where, Bill Watts got overruled immediately by Vince and just went, you know what? I'm good. Go fuck yourself. So
yeah. And it's also these bookers, once they're gone for a while, they just don't, you end up hiring the Iron Sheik. I mean, because you don't know when you're out of it and you're not following it, and we've seen it repeat over and over and over, and it almost never works.
Well, hell, Bill Watts in 92 even. Like, I like that time. I like that time period. But, he walks in and he sees, Flying Brian. He's like, what are you doing, kid? And he's like, jumping off the top rope. And he's like, no more of that shit.
Not anymore.
It's like, okay. Like, I thought I was popular and people enjoyed me. He was like, well, no, not anymore. So it's like, okay, sorry. I won't do high flying anymore, so.
Yeah. So, and that was it for George Scott at that point too. I mean, wait, he may have, no. He was with WWF right at the start of the Hulkamania
era.
Yeah.
He was like, I think came in 84, 85, and I think then he was done, right?
And he was done. And then, that's why when he came back in 89, he was like, oh, the Iron Sheik's available.
Right, yeah.
Well, shit, I'm rubbing my hands together. This guy's money, but we got a lot to get to. So
we do, So that's that. So, all right. So Jim Crockett Promotions, a bunch of stuff. As I said, you can find that pretty easily. All right, let's go talk about AEW Revolution coming up this weekend. Obviously, as we said, instant reaction. voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon available for the $10 tiers. Immediately following the show on Sunday, we will cover that. But let's preview the show right now. So, I don't know. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Dynamite this week, or some of the stuff, or do you want to get right into Revolution?
Well, did you see the Shaq match?
I did see the Shaq match. Yes.
What do you think?
Fucking good, real good. That was one of the better celebrity matches I've seen in a long time. I mean, that was awesome because everybody played their role to perfection. I thought Jade was awesome in it. I think they whatever they needed to do with her, I think they did it exactly. She did just enough where you can kind of say, wow, okay, it looks like she's got some talent. She jumps off the page. She's got all that sort of stuff. Shaq, as playing the Andre the Giant cosplay that he did for a few minutes, was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then that big bump, man, I couldn't believe it when I saw that. I'm like, oh man, what? I saw the GIF before because I actually, I was watching the match and then I had to go do something, so I paused it and I grabbed my phone at some point in between there and I look at my phone and I see Shaq going through tables and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm surprised he did this and he was cool with it, but that's awesome. I mean, I don't know who pitched it. I don't know who said let's do it, but whoever did. I mean, that is a moment that AEW knew was a big deal, and that's going to be, I mean, that's a gift that's going to last for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of the equity that you're going to get out of that thing, that GIF, that's going to be on Inside the NBA. That's going to be on a bunch of different fucking memes. Like, that's just awesome. Like, if you can get, I can't believe Shaq wanted to do it, but it was safe as hell. You know what I mean? Like, he just had to trust, Cody to handle him and trust everybody to handle him. But yeah, it was an awesome moment there where he goes through that table. And I thought Cody did great as kind of being the base for Shaq and doing some stuff. And then I thought Red Velvet was the star of that match, though, to me. When it was done, I was like, holy shit, she's great. Like, that's good.
Red Velvet,
she's really good, yeah.
Red Velvet knocked it out of the park. And when she hit that moonsault off the top turnbuckle to the floor, you could just see in her face how pleased she was with herself, and there's been people nitpicking the selling, and it's like, you are just missing the point of this match. You are just missing the point of this match. This is not Bryan Danielson defending the ROH title in 2006. Okay, remove the fucking stick from your ass and appreciate this for what it was, which was a great celebrity match, high energy. There's plenty of time to pick on Red Velvet's selling. We can do that any other time. I mean, just total nonsense, some of these people. It's like, how do they enjoy anything? But and no one's more of an elitist prick than I am.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, of all people, it's us that are saying just fucking sit back and enjoy it. I mean, yeah. It's fucking Shaquille O'Neal in a fucking wrestling ring doing a bump through a table. Like, let's that's it. Like, we're good. Doing a fucking powerbomb. You know what I mean? Like a pretty good looking powerbomb too by Shaq. So yeah, all the credit in the world for Cody going out there and busting his ass to help Shaq. And yeah, Shaq, I knowing Shaq, I thought we were going to get a lot of low effort from him because he's a guy who
was into it.
He puts pretty low effort into just about everything, including his inside the NBA. As somebody who's a big NBA fan, he doesn't know any of the players. He doesn't know any of the teams except for like the big guys. He basically has nothing to add ever. So I'm thinking, oh man, we're just gonna get like really low effort Shaq. But he's out there throwing power bombs, going through tables. Like, he was into it, and it makes me wonder because so often we see celebrities, big or large, and big or small or whatever in wrestling, and a lot of them are like into it and they do stuff, but like very few reach this high that Shaq did here. So I always wonder, and I guess, I don't know if this is the topic for this day or whatever, but I've always wondered, because you have like Pat McAfee, who obviously is way into it and busted his ass and did all he could, but then you have stuff like, I hear how much Bad Bunny loves wrestling and all this sort of stuff, but all he does is stand backstage. Like, what value do you get out of that?
I'm going to give him a break, though, because that's the company's and
that's what I was going to say. Does the celebrity come up and say, because WWE is very guilty, I think, of not using celebrities at all in the right way, which is so weird because this is the company that, built its foundation, the first WrestleMania, the Rock and Wrestling, using celebrities. But now it's like, hey, blank is going to be on, Raw, or blank is going to be on, and they just stand there, and it's like, that's not enough. Like, nobody cares that X is standing backstage with somebody else. That doesn't make anybody want to watch the show. That doesn't make the guy that he's standing next to star. But they've just kind of decided that if X celebrity is on the show, that is like all they need. Like, they had the fucking Bachelorette girl or Bachelor girl, I forget if she was Bachelorette or Bachelor, and like, I don't even remember her name, but she was just like backstage for like 9 weeks, and it's like, what value are you getting out of this? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and
here?
It's like, and Bad Bunny, I mean, he's clearly a fan. He wants to be there. He's into it. He treats it with respect. You could get more out of him. I mean, you absolutely can get more out of him.
Yeah, well, because he's just like standing there, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and I always wonder, is it the celebrity that goes, hey, look, I don't want to do anything, just kind of whatever, I'll just stand there or do whatever, or is it the company saying, I just wonder in this Shaq discussion, did he come in and say, you know what, boom, let's kill it, let's go through tables, let's do this sort of shit, or was it maybe those guys saying, hey, you want to do this? I don't know who encourages who kind of ramps up, who gets excited about it. I'm very curious after I saw this match, because I'm like, man, I don't know if Shaq's a guy that like will come to the building and say, hey, I'm excited to do this, or if you kind of have to pump him up. I don't know. I'm very curious, but either way, he was fucking pumped up, and this was one of the better celebrity matches I've ever seen.
I mean, behind the paywall, I called it quite possibly the greatest table bump of all time. Am I going too far?
No, you're really not. I mean, it's one of the more iconic ones, and he's 400 pounds, and he's legit 7 feet tall. So when he goes to that table, it just explodes.
It exploded. That table, those tables were obliterated. And this is a 7'3", 380-pound NBA Hall of Famer going through the table. That's the greatest table bump of all time. I mean, it was incredible. And like you're saying, it's Shaquille O'Neal. He doesn't have to do that shit. He just had to throw them big overhand chops, and toss the gun club around and call it a day. But,
that was awesome. They played it. They did this perfect, man. The geeks looked like geeks. You know what I mean? He didn't go up and beat up like main roster members. He beat up the Gun Club, which like, nobody gives a shit about Austin Gunn and whatever the fucking other one's name is. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. That's totally the guys that he should beat. And I'm gonna give a lot of credit too, because it's a very inventive spot. The Cody doing the crossbody over the top rope, and that's how they go through the table. Like, that's cool. There's a lot of different ways to go through a table. There's safer ways to go through a table, but in a lot of ways, this was like the most safe because Shaq is in complete control of his body, and Cody's just kind of along for the ride. But they made it look so good and so impactful that you think it's like this high risk. Oh my god, I can't believe he did that. But it's actually the easiest way. It's just I'm gonna jump into your arms and you fall back. That's it. It's super super safe.
It's still terrifying for a non-wrestler.
Who I imagine he woke up a little sore today, because I don't think Shaq does much stuff like that, anymore in his regular days. But still, that was yeah.
What are the most memorable table spots of all time? Dixie Carter, right? Harley Race and Hulk Hogan, Saturday Night's Main Event. One of the ones
I'd say Terry Funk, Ric Flair. the power bomb on the or the pile driver on the table. Obviously, Mick Foley being thrown off the cell through a table. I think.
The Foley one for sure.
Yeah, that I think has to count. Yeah.
But I mean, this is people are giving me a hard time in the chat, but I really think this is going to go down as one of the most memorable table spots of all time. I mean, that's a short list, and you know, it's Shaquille O'Neal going through this table, and it looked great. You know, how many more can you think of that are like at this level?
No, this is definitely iconic, and it's a way to use a celebrity and use that celebrity in a moment that's going to be remembered forever. Like, you know, TNT will always have that B-roll now of, you know, they're inside the NBA Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal going through a table on AEW Dynamite. Like that, they have that now forever in the can, and if they're smart, they'll use the fuck out of it all the time. So.
Yeah,
I did find it funny though. You were when people were having ratings discussions, you know, people were like, "Oh, you know, hey, Shaq really helped the numbers," and some people were like, "I think it was actually Tully Blanchard." It's like, no, it wasn't.
I think they're just.
I like Tully Blanchard, but come on,
I think they're just fucking around. I don't think.
Okay, all right. I saw that where they're like, "Well, what about Tully?" It's like, I think Shaquille O'Neal's a bigger star than Tully Blanchard.
No, I think people are being facetious.
Okay,
I
haven't
seen
the I have a tough time. I can't tell anymore. But yeah.
Well, it is hard to tell sometimes. But I haven't seen the quarter hours. I don't, you know, I'm assuming because it was over 50s that were the big gain and young males, one has to assume Shaquille O'Neal was a factor.
Wasn't one half of the Brainbusters Tully Blanchard that was moving the needle there. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that quickly. I guess we can go through the Revolution card and give it the in-depth preview that we didn't do last week because we knew we had this week to do it.
Yeah, so they announced for the pre-show Riho and Thunder Rosa teaming up against Britt Baker and Rebel. So that'll be on the buy-in. You will ask me if I watched it, and we'll see. Maybe, but probably not. So we'll
I assume some kind of angle or something there. You have Thunder Rosa and Britt on opposite sides. That's what matters.
Right, exactly. So kind of teasing there. AEW World Tag Team titles, the Young Bucks versus MJF and Chris Jericho. I enjoyed what they did on on Dynamite. I have not listened to your Thursday tier review, so I don't know exactly your thoughts on it, but I thought it was okay. I think they worked around the quote unquote contract signing in a way, but essentially just did it as kind of a promo battle between the two. And I thought the Bucks got real impassioned about, you know, their father and stuff, which was kind of cool. And I thought MJF was really, really good. And I don't know, I'm not like super into this match because I don't know, I'm not into these guys right now, this combination of guys right now, but I thought, you know, they did an okay job, and I think it'll be a good enough match. But it's not the main event. It's not, you don't really like it, the whole show doesn't hinge on this match. If it's good, it's a feather in the cap. But if it's, you know, just okay, it's fine. You know what I mean? It's not going to make or break the show.
No, I liked the go home segment. I thought Matt Jackson's promo was phenomenal.
Yeah, real good stuff.
Real good fire there. So, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, it's opening up the show, this match.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea. That's a good way to open the show. The Bucks should always open every show, basically forever, until unless they're in like a clear main event, they should probably just open the show.
Correct. That's exactly. Unless they're in the main event program, they should open every show. You're dead on with that.
Street Fight. I'm looking forward to this one. Street Fight. Team Taz versus Darby Allin and Sting. I love this feud. I know you love this feud. Okay. Dave Meltzer is still saying that's going to be cinematic. He heard 3 weeks ago it's going to be cinematic. We've kind of heard or kind of thought or sort of assumed that it's not as cinematic as people say. So it's somewhere between a normal wrestling match and a cinematic match. Is that fair to say?
Listen, I talked to someone too. I know you did. I did too. But don't worry, you're not going to get in trouble because I talked to the same person you did after I talked to the other person. The word on the street is that this may not be as cinematic as people are thinking. Is that the fair way to put it?
Yeah, that's what I said. Somewhere between a normal wrestling match and a cinematic match. But whatever you want to classify that in between as, that's what it's going to be. And that's kind of what you're saying
also,
too. So.
Yeah, but these are also the opinions of the people who are telling us this. We may have a different definition of not cinematic. You see what I'm saying with that? So I'm not trying to hedge, but I'm saying... and even Dave kind of backpedaled a little because he said he heard 3 weeks ago it was cinematic, but then he started to talk and then stopped talking. So I don't know. Here's the bottom line with this. It may not be a cinematic match in the way that people are thinking.
Right. The way I'm thinking, and I think the way that you define it as well is, yeah, you're backstage, you got like the film cameras, you got Darby and Sting walking in a hallway, and you got the dun 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 dun, music in the background, or like this dumb shit that all these other companies do.
You're on a set.
Right. It might just be that they have a street fight in the streets of Daly's Place and there's a bunch of cameras and some stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it could be like that, where it's not a live to tape, but it's a little bit of a taped segment that integrates with the live segment. Who knows? Yeah, something like that.
Like a taped street fight, like the street fights they've already done, like the parking lot brawl or some of the other tactics.
Right, yeah, like what do you classify the parking lot brawl as? I don't know that I would call that a cinematic match in the same sense that I would call the fucking Stadium Stampede or whatever. I guess it's close. I guess they are pretty close. I don't know.
It's kind of that in-between gray area.
Yeah, AEW has not done, other than the fucking dentist match, whatever the fuck that shit was.
Oh, it was so bad.
That was the one with people screaming. Like, that's garbage. That's trash. Well, that was cinematic.
Stadium Stampede was cinematic too, but people like that. I'm the only one in the world who didn't, but everyone else seemed to. That fucking horse, I cannot believe he rode into a match on a horse. It makes me sick to my stomach. Like, I
can't believe that's the part. I was more than Matt Hardy got electrocuted and then emerged from the pool as a different character. That got me a little bit more than the horse. You're very upset about the horse.
Matt Hardy getting dipped into the water and emerging as a different character each time. That was equally dumb. But the horse really bugs me. It really bothered me. But I mean, so it's not like beneath them to do a cinematic match. So I don't know. This one, though, we're hearing that it may not be what people are thinking. I think the last 2 weeks of TV have been to establish that Sting can still move.
Yeah, right.
He's looked great.
Yeah, and you know what? The good thing about this team is that you have Darby Allin, the best guy at taking bumps in the fucking universe, and then you have Sting, who is a little bit of advanced age, but has proved that he can take some bumps. But that's fine. You let Sting do the offense and Darby take the bumps. Like, it's a perfect team, and then Sting can take some high impact stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he took the Brian Cage powerbomb. He can take a little things here and there, but for the most part, Darby just needs to do kind of the heavy lifting on bumping, and Sting can go. It's not like he's a decrepit old man that can't take any bumps or do anything. We've clearly established that.
I wasn't sure, but he's proven that he's not.
Right.
The last 3 weeks. I mean, when he went wild, when he whooped Ricky Stark's ass last night.
That was
how great Ricky Stark was.
Okay, I know that everybody, it's like people laugh at you because you put over Ricky Starks for all this sort of stuff, but like the best part, he's such a fucking worker. He just gets it. He gets in the ring. Sting starts hitting him. Those loafers go flying in the air. Just classic pro wrestling shit is where you wear those loafers, and as you're taking the beating, the loafers go flying outside the ring to sell the beating. He's classic pro wrestling. I fucking love it.
Who in that company would you rather have in there with Sting to fly around and bump for him?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
right.
He's just, and he was loving life putting over Sting like that on live TV on TNT. I mean, but yeah, I think that, Sting showed that, especially if you're going to protect them, that he can come across, like a physical threat and take bumps. And I mean, he's looked great the last 3 weeks doing that stuff. So I'm way more confident in his abilities to get through a match now and then than I was when they hired him. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this and I'm curious about it. It involves a bunch of people I like. Rich, if this was just a straight tag, it's even the perfect formula for Sting, because Darby is the perfect baby face in peril to get beat up for 12 minutes. And then you hot tag Sting and he just cleans house.
Right.
You don't even have to bump. And then you do whatever finish you're going to do. So yeah, I'm confident that they can make this work. Way more confident than when they announced it.
Absolutely. AEW Women's World Championship, Hikaru Shida, the champion, defending against the Eliminator tournament winner, Ryo Mizunami, who I thought looked really good on Dynamite. I'm very happy that she won this and not Nyla Rose, even though Shida and Nyla had a good match, last year or 2 years ago at this point, whatever it was, that they had their match. But I'm excited about Shida and Mizunami. I thought Mizunami, to me, was one of the standouts of the Eliminator tournament. And I'm pretty excited about this match. I think this has a chance to be pretty damn good.
I'm just glad all the fucking idols and their skirts lost.
You got a badass. Yeah, you got Mizunami. She'll have a little bit of fun, but she's also a badass too. So fucking
Riho and the Magic Girl. Oh my God! Can somebody shove the magic girl?
You're talking about
back
Yuka
into her
Sakazaki,
lamp?
right? Are you calling her the magic girl?
Can someone shove her back into the lamp and just leave her there? Don't rub the lamp because she's like a genie, right? Shove her back into the lamp. Never rub the lamp again, so I never have to watch that person wrestle again. That's her nickname, the Magic Girl. You didn't know that, Rich?
I didn't.
She's the magical girl. The magical girl. It's awful. Those awful noises that she makes, like all those idol girls make, that noise, that high-pitched squeal that they all make. Rich, I can't take it. I'm so giving up on this. You're not converting. Stop trying to convert me. I watch this stuff, and it's like I never want to watch it again. I'm glad all the idols lost. We're going to have to deal with Maki Ito again. You know they're bringing her.
Yeah, they love her. Yeah, that's...
The thing with Maki Ito is she fucking stinks. On top, I'm just shooting now.
You just go off, King. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not holding back anymore. The thing about Maki Ito is, number one, if her gimmick wasn't explained to me by everyone, I wouldn't know what her gimmick is. And I've watched her 3 times now. It didn't come across at all. So how good is she at this gimmick if it never comes across? Rich, on the Bleacher Report special, they opened it up with her singing for 5 minutes. How does that show that she's like an anti-idol? Because she throws a middle finger now and then? So her character work, from what I've seen, is lazy as fuck, and she doesn't get it over. Okay? I would have no idea what her gimmick is if people didn't explain it to me. And then she wrestles and she stinks. What is the appeal of this person? She is no different than all of these United States indie wrestlers who are Twitter gimmicks. She's fucking Dan the Dad.
Yeah, she's very good at Twitter. She's very good at Twitter, I think.
She's the ally cat. She's Dan the Dad. She's Danhausen. That's what she is. I do not see the appeal. I shouldn't say that. I see the appeal. She'd fit right in on a BLP show. You can stick her right on a BLP show against fucking Warhorse. That's what she is. I mean, what? God, she's so overhyped. But there's people, no, listen, I understand there's people who are into that. And do I think the AEW fans would be into that? I absolutely do. Orange Cassidy's over. There's no reason she couldn't get over. It's not going to be for me, though. I mean, John Silver's getting over. He annoys me. So I understand it's along those lines. So we're going to have to deal with her again. And obviously, Riho's going nowhere. Riho's fine. I don't take her as a physical threat. And I never will take her as a physical threat. The Magic Girl, though, she can get stuffed right back in that lamp. I've had enough of her. I can't take it.
Did you ever watch the match last year? The one that I put over, the one from it was the Tokyo Joshi Pro. I forget the show, but we talked about it in the flagship a little bit. That was a pretty damn good match. I enjoyed that one, but
I don't know.
I won't offer. But I'm gonna try to watch this. I'm gonna watch some of the Stardom stuff from this past week. The show, but I do not believe you will. So I'll report back and we'll see if anything landed with me. But all right, big money match here. I not too into the gimmick, not too into this entire thing going on right now with Matt Hardy, but curious on your thoughts. Matt Hardy versus Hangman Page. I believe the official stance or the official gimmick here. Let me read it exactly as it is listed, just to make sure we clarify the big money match. The winner receives the loser's 2021 first quarter earnings. Got that? In the big money match between Hangman Page and Matt Hardy.
Yeah, this is a better alternative to magical broken Matt Hardy.
Can we just have no Matt Hardy? Is that possible?
I would love that, Rich.
Yeah, okay. If we could just do that, I'm into that. Yeah.
Yeah, he can, him and the magical girl can just ride off into the fucking sunset together. Yeah, I don't know. And Hangman, I really am not interested in this Dark Order storyline at all. John Silver is very off-putting to me. This whole deal where they're just like a bunch of wide-eyed teenagers trying to get Hangman Page to like them.
Yeah, it's really they come across as dorks, and I don't want any of my wrestlers to ever come across as dorks.
Can I just get the Road Warriors like beating people up? Do we have to have?
Yeah, I like Team Taz. I like a bunch of dudes coming and fucking beat this old guy, this old asshole, because they think he sucks. You know what I mean? Like, I like that. Yeah. That's better. I like Brian Cage and Hook and Ricky Starks coming out and stomping on a 60-year-old because they think he's garbage. Like that, I like bullies. A lot more. Yeah, heel
bullies, and then eventually they get their come up. That's all I want. I mean, I get it. The AEW audience eats this stuff up. I get it. John Silver is over. All I'm saying is it is not for me. So not super into this match, no.
Yeah, it's kind of I know that they're trying to kind of find an in-between period for Hangman or find out something for him to do, but they need to be careful that he doesn't come across too much of he needs to still be a star. And this stuff, I don't know.
It's walking a line.
It is. It's getting close. It's getting close. Hopefully, just beats Matt Hardy in a few minutes, gets it done with, kicks him to the side, and then maybe moves on to something else, whatever that next thing is. But yeah, the more you're with Matt Hardy and exchanging envelopes and contracts and all that sort of stuff, it's yeah.
I want Hangman Page in a blood feud with somebody.
Right.
I mean, that's what I want to see. I want to see Hangman Page getting his mojo back and working towards the world title, and I want to see Hangman Page wrestling for titles and stakes and trying to get to the pay window. I don't like this comedy troupe standing around the corner like a bunch of puppies. It does nothing for me. I'm just not into it.
Face of the Revolution ladder match is for a future TNT title match. Cody Rhodes, Scorpio Sky, Penta, Lance Archer, Max Caster, and TBA. This is a very strange combination of names. This is one of those classic, like, in 10 years, we're going to laugh at when we go back in this roster. And it's fucking Pentagon Jr., Max Caster, and Lance Archer in a ladder match. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be ridiculous. And Cody Rhodes. It's just wild. And we still have a TBA, the very dangerous TBA. This is not the same TBA as the one that Paul White, we'll talk about that in a bit, the rumored Hall of Fame caliber signing. This is a different TBA, but a new debut in AEW. So, I don't know. Do you have any wild speculation about this person?
Ethan Page.
You think it's a lock to be Ethan Page?
Can I sell you on it?
Go ahead. Try.
Reignite the Darby feud when he wins the match and becomes the next challenger.
Okay. It's the best thing that they did with Ethan, or the best thing that Ethan's ever done. So I'm into that. Okay. All right. After that, what do we do? Honestly, no. All joking aside, I think that Ethan Page is solid. I think he needs to get reeled in, or needs to get, like, kind of knocked down a peg type stuff. And I mean that in the best way.
What's the greatest thing he ever did?
Throwing Darby Allin against the fucking barricade, or throwing him against the ring, whatever the pole. Throwing Darby under the pole and beating the fuck out of him.
Feud.
Yeah.
The Darby feud is the best thing he's ever done. I don't know if Tony Khan would go down the road of continuing a feud that happened in Evolve. I don't know the answer to that.
I think I do know the answer, and I think he's all in. He's a dork, like, in a good way, in the best way possible.
Yeah,
He'd eat that up, I think.
I hear you. I'm sure he's aware of that feud. I'm sure he's aware that it was great. Maybe as a wink and a nod. I could totally see Ethan Page, like, and Excalibur screaming, "These men have a history," but not really telling you what the history is. Just giving you the benefit of the doubt that you know, and if you don't know, well, he's telling you that they have. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing AEW does. They're not going to hammer you over the head with it. If you know, you know. If you don't, they're going to just, casually let you know. I don't know. It's just an idea. Yeah, because I've seen this thing kicked around.
The other name I saw, which I like a little bit more, is Mance Warner coming in here.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of indie bookings lately. We know it's someone that they've at least kicked the tires on. So I could see that. Would the 1,100, 1,200 people in Daly's Place respond to him? It's a tough one.
No, I don't think they wouldn't respond to Ethan or him. Yeah, that's one of the issues is revealing them as TBAs. I think is a tough, because there's going to be a segment of fans that now think that this TBA is going to be the Paul White TBA, the Paul White signing, which again they've tried to establish that it's not the same person, that they're two different people. Yeah. But I'm sure there's someone that's going to roll up to Daly's Place and think, oh, the secret guy is going to, and they're going to think, oh, it's this guy, it's Ethan. Like, there's a very small segment of fans that are going to know who either Mance or Ethan Page are. So I think
you do the Paul White reveal before the match.
You would have to. Yeah, that would be that's what I would do if they're smart. Is I would say, okay, here's X, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And then so you don't have the expectations that this TBA is going to be anything but just another guy to add to the roster, which is no slight on Ethan Page or Mance Warner, but that's what they are. They're just becoming mid card guys. They're just so I don't know. Yeah, either one of those I think are fine. Both guys good talkers, decent charisma, so they would fit in this company. It's a talking promotion for sure. So I'd prefer Mance over Ethan Page, but I do like, people think that we're like straight Ethan Page haters. I'm an Ethan Page hater when he has all creative liberties, but I think if he's willing to kind of listen and let somebody kind of help him out or craft some of his stuff, I think he could be an asset for sure. So
yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a million times. He can't be left to his own devices, and if used properly, he can be a real asset. but I would keep him at arm's length. With that said, but we'll see. It's also a scenario where the mystery guy kind of has to win, right?
Yeah, sort of. You can't be like, oh, his debuting guy, and then Lance Archer just, like, power bombs him and then climbs up the ladder and gets the title. Like, oh, all right, well, never mind. So,
yeah.
We'll see. All right. Fucking God, Miro. Kip Sabian.
Yeah, but did you hear Miro cut a promo on us? On Dynamite?
I did. He said, no more joking around, no more bullshit. All right. Hey, you know what? Miro, fucking prove it, pal. Like, let's go.
That promo was cut on me and you.
Yeah.
I'm convinced. Maybe I have an inflated sense of importance, but
well, what would probably happen
if you are tired of watching me play games, then I'm not playing games anymore.
Yeah,
and
well,
I'm
probably
like,
what TK. I bet TK was in the room and said like, some people are saying you play too many games, or that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the motivation of, okay, what's my motivation for this promo? Like, oh, people think that you only play games or whatever. So maybe not directly at us. I would like to think it's directly at us, but at least influenced a little bit by our criticisms of
us in quotes, as we represent the people who think he's a dork.
Yes, exactly.
Basically. So I'm all
we
for
led
it.
the charge. I would say we led the charge when everybody else was saying, oh, he's just having fun. Oh, the Mickey Mouse thing is worth $6,000. And I don't fucking care. He looks like a dork that's wearing pajamas playing video games. And I'm a dork who wears pajamas and plays video games, but I'm not on fucking national television. So, Because
we said it when it wasn't popular.
Yes.
And we were the only people saying it, and then everybody came around. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still some foot draggers, I guess. But everyone came around and saw that we were right eventually on this. And we were brave enough to say it when it wasn't popular. So, look, I'm all for it. If this is going to be it now and he's just going to – look, who better than these dopey best friends to get in there and just destroy?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope he's just
Cassidy. Just fucking throw him throw him into the crowd, do whatever you got to do, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm hoping that's the case, and he just buzzsaws these dorks, and they can beat up on Kip all they want, but you tag in Miro, and then Miro just he's mean, and it just his coming out party. I would like to see him. This will never happen. I want to see him stack up Chucky and Orange Cassidy on top of one another, and then do the camel clutch accolade.
Yes, yeah, classic move there. That'd be great.
And then keep wrenching it after the bell rings, and everybody's got to run down and try to peel them off. Yeah,
even Kip's trying to peel him off, and you can't get rid of him. You can't. Yeah,
Kip's like, this is too far, Miro. And maybe have Trent in the crowd, all slinged up with his injury, like oh man, and really fucking destroy these guys and humiliate them. I really don't like best friends if you can't tell.
I think I'm picking up on what you're laying down there.
I'm
so
a fan of the best friends, but anyway, hopefully this is it for the goofy Miro.
Yeah, I hope so too. Casino Tag Team Royale here, future AEW World Tag Team Championship match.
Name all these teams. Can I go get a cup of coffee here while you're?
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. So if you want to do whatever you got to do. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. When have you ever had coffee? Have you ever actually drank any amount of coffee ever in your life?
It's an expression, Rich.
I'm just wondering. No, now I'm actually genuinely curious if you have.
I've never tasted coffee.
Not one.
No.
So have you even by mistake had it? Like TLB's brought it and you said, hey, let me try that.
I had it by mistake a couple times, like in a milkshake or something, like a gimmicky kind of thing.
Okay.
It was coffee flavored. And I immediately spit it out.
So it's the coffee. You can't even consume the coffee flavor of something.
I find the scent of coffee repulsive, which is why I've never tasted it.
Interesting. All right. Well,
it's that coffee smell that everybody loves.
It's like I adore it.
I'd rather sit in the room and smell my own farts. It's just a repulsive scent to me.
Wow. All right.
I don't know why. Sometimes you have a scent and it's like. You know how some people love the smell of gas? Like gasoline gas.
Yeah. I actually like the smell a lot, yeah.
I'm a big fan of the smell of gasoline, too. But then there's some people who it's like it makes them choke. Like they're just like, oh, I can't take it.
That's me and tuna. I can't even be in the same room. And any other fish. Like I eat fish all the time. I eat salmon all the time. I eat shrimp all the time. That's no problem. But tuna. Like that, you crack open a can of tuna and I want to die. You know what I mean? I want to just completely, just want to rip my nose off. It's the most disgusting thing, and I start gagging immediately. And I have to be I can't be in the same room. I can't even be in the same house. I have to go outside when someone opens a can of fucking chicken of the sea tuna or whatever. So,
no, I get it. I mean, TLB brews coffee in here, and I'm just like, I got to go in the furthest room. I can't.
Wow, interesting.
And she needs to I don't like it on her breath after she drinks it. It's just, I can't. It just does it to me. Like, the other thing is mayonnaise. I cannot even, if I smell mayonnaise, I could puke. If you stuck a jar of mayonnaise under my nose and forced me to just smell it for like 30, I think I would vomit. I hate it that much.
That's fair. So I don't hate mayonnaise as much as you, but I also find it repulsive too. Like, the smell of it is disgusting. Like, I have to be able to put it on something, and then like it accentuates the flavor of whatever I have.
Right.
But I can't, like, if you just opened a jar and told me to stick my nose in there and take a big whiff, like, I'd probably throw up too. So.
Yeah, just it's not good. But yeah, but for that reason, I've never tasted coffee because I hate the smell so much.
Well, that'll do it. That'll definitely do it. So you were not going to get a coffee while I described the Casino Tag Team Royale. So
I bought this ice cream once. I forget what it was called, but it was very deceptive, the name of it, and it was coffee flavor. It turned out it was coffee.
Was it Jamocha? Was it Jamocha coffee? Nah,
it was called like Double Dunk or something, and I thought it just meant like, I don't know what I thought it meant. I thought it was like some kind of chocolate thing. And I remember like taking a spoonful of it and then just spitting it all over my kitchen counter. I was like, this is vile. I can't believe this is disgusting.
I love coffee ice cream, man. Coffee ice cream is the best, yeah.
No, I know. I listen, I'm out on an island here. Most people love the smell. Even people who don't drink coffee like the smell of coffee. But I don't know.
You would hate me even more. I'm a straight black coffy guy too. I don't put anything in that thing.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means because I don't even know.
No sugar, no milk, no half and half, just straight black. Yeah, so there you go. All right. TLB, I'm imagining, is not a black coffee drinker.
No.
Yeah, most of the ladies.
No, when the coffee creamer runs out, it's like a state of emergency.
Right? She can't even bear. So okay, and that's the thing too. Not to besmirch her. She doesn't really like coffee. She likes fucking, Snickers flavored, coffee creamer type stuff.
Yeah, it's always a gimmick flavor.
Right, like she doesn't like the coffee. She likes she likes thinking that she's drinking a cup full of Snickers or a cup full of whatever. The holidays. I'm sure your fridge is half fucking peppermint coffee creamers, but
it's always a Chikara coffee creamer flavor. It's never just like coffee creamer.
No, it's Almond Joy and Snickers and Thin Mints and peppermint and.
It'll be like a Saturday morning, and she gets up at the crack of dawn at like 9 a.m. or whatever, and she's like making coffee.
Is the crack of dawn 9 a.m.? I don't think that's the case. I believe the crack of dawn is much earlier than 9 a.m. But
I mean, to me it is.
To you it is, but okay, go ahead. The crack
of
dawn 9 a.m.
Yeah, and I'll hear her down there like, no coffee. She doesn't even care what like. In her fucking pajamas.
Oh, she's out. She's running out.
In the car. Yeah, she's in the car. I'm like, how do you go in public like that? She's like, I had no coffee creamer. I'm like, relax. Like, she'll either go.
You probably have enough milk in the house. Like, if she really needed to, she could drop some milk in there. But yeah, it's not the same. So.
Yeah, or she's like going to Starbucks and spending $4.80 on a cup instead of like it can't be. The need can't be this serious. But I guess it is. I mean, listen, when I don't have Coke Z's, I turn into a monster. Like, I start getting the caffeine headache.
Oh, I get the caffeine headache within like an hour of the morning. Like, if I wake up at my actual crack of dawn around 5 or 6 a.m. If by like 7 or 8 I haven't had coffee, like immediate migraine that I need. It's terrible. I'm so addicted to it. But you know what? I'm not addicted to anything else. So fuck it. I'll take. I'm addicted to watching wrestling and coffee. So I guess there's worse things to be addicted to. So
I've got 2 Coke Z's left in the fridge, and I'm doing the grocery order tomorrow. I'm gonna ration these. Like we're in a famine, and these are the last 2 cans of Coke Z on Earth. Like, you don't know this because I have to make these work until the groceries arrive tomorrow, which is not going to be easy. So, and I turn into an absolute monster if I don't have it. So I can kind of understand like the panic that sets in if you're a coffee drinker and you don't have the necessary fucking ingredients. So, anyway.
Bear Country, Bear Boulder, Bear Bronson, The Dark Order again. The first one's Alex Reynolds and John Silver. The other one is Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. The Inner Circle, Santana and Ortiz. The Butcher and the Blade. Private Party. Top Flight. Pac and Ray Phoenix, the Death Triangle. The Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. The Seidel brothers, Matt Seidel and Mike Seidel. SoCal Uncensored, Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. The Natural Nightmares, Dustin Rose and QT Marshall. The Chaos Project of Luther and Serpentico. And the Gun Club, Austin Gunn and Colton Clun. Also a TBA. Sorry, there's also a TBA here too, because there's just not enough tag teams. We need one more in this match. The 13 that we listed is not enough. We need one more TBA. So apparently there's another team in here as well. So
I counted them up, and they have well over 20 and almost 30 established tag teams.
That's insane.
I like it though.
I do too. Cool. Yeah, tag team wrestling rules. Like you should. I've always had the mindset that if I was booking a territory, that all my singles wrestlers would also have like a backup tag team that they could be in. Yeah. Type stuff. I think that's awesome. Yeah,
not just throwing guys together like
right. Kind of like, basically my booking style is just essentially All Japan in the early '90s. It's like when Kenny Omega's main eventing, he's in main events as a singles guy. But when I want somebody else, then he goes and he teams with the guy that he always teams with. So whoever that be, insert whoever that is. But essentially just fucking 1992 All Japan Pro Wrestling is how I book. So
yeah, no, and I think that's great. They have like 12 established trios teams in this company too. I mean, you go real deep, like with the Gun Club.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. And the worst part is people are like, they should make a trios tag team. I'm like, no, just have trios matches. You don't have to have a tag team. Just
that's coming though.
I know it's coming, but sometimes you can just have 6 guys get in the ring, the bell rings, and they fight each other. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a title. Like,
they're going to do it on the boat, and then Cody, even on the call, said that pretty much confirmed that those titles. Yeah. Well, a tournament. He said a trios tournament is coming. Which, what are the stakes going to be? Obviously, there's got to be a championship.
Well, I'm fine with a giant novelty check and a trophy. That works too. So
I don't mind trios titles if they make them like a prelim level thing. Like you see them defended on Dark, you see them defended.
Sure,
in the open.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with that because they don't have a ton of titles in that company. They really don't. They got the 2 singles titles and then the women's title.
Yeah, you got world title, TNT, women, and then the tag. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's room for another title. The women's tag team deal with the medals, I think that's cool and different. The only thing I don't like about that is the Battle Bowl style of picking the teams when they do the tournament. That's kind of corny. Just have established women's teams in that tournament every year. And then the winners get to brag and they have the fucking medal. Ivelisse and Diamante. I don't like that it's like randomized, but other than that, I think that's a cool twist on having a goal for the women's tag teams, but not having it dilute your title picture. So I wouldn't mind another set of titles, whether it's trios or something else.
And then our main event, which I'm very curious how this works out. I'm fascinated to see how this match goes. The Exploding Barbed Wire Death Match, AEW World Title, Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. I think I'm worried about this match in a little bit, and the reason I'm worried is I'm pessimistic by nature, and an exploding barbed wire death match is hard to do. It's hard to make it look good. It's hard to make it look natural. It's hard not to come across dorky. Some guys can nail it. Some of these exploding barbed wire matches are really, really good and really, really fun. But a lot of them are novelties. A lot of them cover up guys that aren't, great bell-to-bell wrestlers or guys that really don't have, I'm a little worried of how, what are these guys going to do in between? Are they going to have like a good wrestling match and then suddenly stuff's going to explode? Is it going to be a match that's all just about the explosions and all about kind of building up to those explosions? It's very weird and I don't know. Like I'm going in with I guess, I don't know. I'm going in pessimistic because I think a lot of to me, there's more ability for this to be a bad match than a good match, but they're 2 tremendous pro wrestlers. So, and it's Kenny fucking Omega. And it's AEW, who I think, has nailed most of their main events. So I guess I should think positively in that sense, but this gimmick is just really hard to do well. So I'm very, very, very curious how this gets pulled off.
I'm confident. I'm willing to be confident and set myself up to be disappointed because I think if it's a disappointment, it's going to be one of those like funny like it's just going to be such a train wreck. Like if the explosions aren't impressive or something, that'll be fun to shit on. So I think either way, we're going to be winners here.
Well, there'll be something to talk about for sure. Yeah, we will have a discussion. Either that was the best exploding barbed wire death match ever, or what the hell were those guys doing as 4 little fireworks go off in the background when they do this, or I don't know. Are they doing the fucking Onita where the whole fucking building explodes? I don't know. It's
yeah.
Are we getting the countdown clock? Like, are we? I don't know. There's a lot of ways this can go, and it could, like you said, it could come across real dorky, and then at least it'll be fun to, I guess, talk about that aspect of it.
Yeah, then we could just riff on it for 45 minutes on the show that we do. We could just fucking we just bury the thing and it could become a meme. So I don't think there's no what this isn't going to be is just mediocre.
No, yeah, it's either gonna be fucking awesome or absolutely ridiculous. So,
yeah, or both.
Yeah, maybe both. Yeah, it is kind of funny though. People, I've seen a lot of people being like, "Oh, well, the exploding barbed wire matches, those matches are always good," and I'm like, "You really need to go watch some of these matches. They're really not." Like, you saw a gif of Onita, going into the ropes and the whole fucking building exploding, and thought, "Whoa, that's awesome!" But like, really sit down and watch that 20-minute match. It's not that good. It's pretty terrible, actually. So.
Yeah, there's been a lot where the explosives didn't work properly, and
a few landed, a few are good, and they make for great gifts and great moments. But yeah, bell to bell, the whole package, not always great. And a lot of people, I mean, ECW tried it. I think I forget what was the match that ECW had that was just like.
I don't think they did an exploding barbed wire match.
Who am I thinking of? Maybe XPW or one of those shitty. Who did an exploding? Somebody did an exploding barbed wire in America, and it was really, really fucking terrible. I'm
sure someone has tried it. CZW or something.
Yeah, it was maybe it was one of those that I'm thinking of. Maybe one of those.
I've never followed CZW because I just think it's sleazy,
yeah. Maybe it was a CZW that I'm thinking of here, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, people think of Jack and Terry Funk and stuff, and that's cool, and Onita and Hayabusa, and that stuff's cool, but yeah, it's not always We'll see. We'll see. You've made me excited now, and now that you've sold it that, hey, even if it sucks, it'll be fun. So I guess I'm into that. Okay, you've won me over.
I mean, because it'll be an absolute train wreck if it's bad.
Right.
It'll be fun to pick on. That'll be a fun Twitter experience if it's really shitty.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you could really go wrong with this thing. But
the best is that Kenny's just such a fucking maniac that that he was just like, oh, we're gonna do an exploding barbed wire, and they're probably like, why, Kenny? Like, do we really have to do that? He's like, yeah, we got to do it. We're gonna do it. It's just like, all right,
it was his idea.
Like, let's fucking do it. All right, fine. Like,
it was his idea,
right?
And then
and like nobody had a choice either. There wasn't any talk. He's like, we're gonna do that match, and they're like, let's think about it. He's like, no, we're gonna do it, and they're like, all right, like,
Well, Khan said he had it. He pitched it a long time ago, and he had it in his back pocket. And Khan thought this was the right time to do it. And then he pitched it to Moxley, and Moxley was like, hell yeah, man.
Yeah, Moxley. Yeah, took a fucking drag of his cigarette and said, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Like, took a swig of his Jack Daniels straight from the bottle and went, fuck yeah, let's do it. Like,
Yeah, and then went and watched a bunch of tapes. And,
right.
And yeah, so I think that the effort will obviously be
right.
there.
If there are going to be two guys that I think are going to, because Kenny Omega is just determined to be good at everything that he does, and every type of match, and every type of style or whatever. So we got that. There's no doubt in my mind that Kenny's going to go out there and bust his ass and try to do it. And then you got fucking John. I mean, when you talk about like anybody, I mean, with AEW, with the resources that they have, with the ability that they have, plus these two guys, yeah, these are, if it's going to work and it's going to be awesome, it's these two guys in this company at this moment, for sure. No fans that you really have to worry about all that much. I mean, obviously a little bit, but it's not enough. You don't have to, it'd be a little tough to do an exploding barbed wire death match and like, Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they might say, what are you doing in our arena? Like, I don't think you could do that. Whereas this is their own place. So they can have a little bit of fun. They can get a little wild with the stuff and not really worry about, like, liabilities and whatnot.
No, I agree. Khan also noted that this is the blow-off for the feud for the foreseeable future. Like, these guys have been kind of connected at the hip, even when they're not necessarily directly feuding with each other.
Yeah, back from the formation of the company, Double or Nothing 2019, yeah.
Yeah, and they always go back to it, but he said this is it. This is the feud ender. They're going to be kept apart. So they've got a big blow-off planned for this. So, I mean, if Moxley loses, he's going to be out of the title picture for a while. So everyone's kind of focused on the stipulation and what it's going to be like, which is fine because we're all curious, but it's also a pretty important match in terms of the direction of the top title in the company. I think it's too soon for Omega to lose. I don't think he should lose. So I think he's going to win, and then it's a matter of, well, where do we go from here with Moxley? Because if Khan says this is ending the feud, it doesn't make any sense for Moxley to win. What's Omega just going to say, oh, well, I had a good run with the title. I'm going to, go do something. No, I mean, it tells me that Omega's probably winning the match, and he should win. I don't think he should lose the title yet.
All right, so that's AEW Revolution. We
also talk about the mystery man.
Yeah, I was going to say one last thing though here. The mystery Hall of Fame caliber signing that Paul White teased on Dynamite. I mean, this they've set themselves up. Khan, doubles down on it on his interview today. Like, this can't be Mance Warner. You know what I mean? He can't say it's Mance Warner and like good old Mancer comes down there and shakes Paul White's hand or whatever. It can't be that. It's got to be somebody bigger than that. They've set it up too much. If it is, that's a disaster. And I don't think that they're smart enough to know that it needs to be somebody with some sort of name value. But they got to walk a fine line here. I think one of the names I've seen bandied about that I absolutely hate is Kurt Angle. I would roll my eyes very strong at Kurt Angle. I don't think he offers you much in 2021. He can't walk. I don't know that whatever. I don't think you get enough value out of a Kurt Angle, and it adds the perception that you're just clinging on to old WWE guys.
Yeah,
with Kurt Angle. So that would be my absolute worst case scenario. Other than like the worst case scenario, aside from like it's Ethan Page. You know what I mean? It's like all ego Ethan Page comes out. Like aside from those like of like kind of star guys that they can bring in, guys that they think are a big deal. Kurt Angle to me is probably the worst one that I can think of.
When Paul White put it over on TV and said Hall of Fame caliber. And didn't really specify that it was a wrestler. I'm thinking, okay, well, they're trying to get this new dark show off the ground. Maybe it's someone like Mike Tenay, right? Because he could be his broadcast partner on the show. I think the AEW audience would be excited about that. But then when Tony Khan went on the podcast and said it's a major, major star in pro wrestling and all this.
Right. It can't be Mike Tenay anymore.
It can't be Mike Tenay. It can't be Joey Styles. It can't be anyone along those. It's got to be a wrestler, right? So, because Khan really oversold it. But now they have to deliver. And I think the way that Paul White sold it, you could have gotten away with kind of a lesser name. Now you can't. So I really don't. CM Punk says it's not him. He did a Q&A on Twitter on purpose, obviously, to say that it wasn't him. And I don't get the sense he's trying to swerve people. He said, I'm doing a Q&A, and by the way, I'm not the guy. Because he doesn't want questions about being the guy. And I think he's the kind of guy who's like, well, I don't want them selling pay-per-views thinking that people thinking they're going to get me. So I'm going to nip this in the bud and just tell people that I'm not the guy. You know what I mean? I think that's why he did that.
Yeah, and that's not the first. I mean, he's done that a few times. Like, these specific examples I don't remember, but he's clearly annoyed when like companies, which right or wrong, I don't think like companies aren't really saying it's him.
It's the fans, not the company.
Right, exactly. But I think he gets annoyed thinking that this company is like alluding to that it being him, and it's not. It's the fans that just do that. But regardless, he got out there right away and said it's not me. I'm going to do a Q&A and P.S. It's not me. Is essentially what his tweet said. So.
Yeah, so unless he is in on it and then just doing a swerve and it's all part of the plan, which would be great because it threw me off the scent, and I think that would be cool. What are you left with? I mean, are they willing to pay for Brock Lesnar, who is a free and clear free agent?
That's an interesting one. I don't know. I mean, I guess if it's a 1-year deal, if you really think that can be that thing that takes you over the hump, and I don't disagree that it would be. I mean, Brock is a clear money mover. He's done that many times for WWE. We've proven it. You look at the WWE Network. You can look at buys and ticket sales and all that sort of stuff. He's a mover. Ratings. He's a mover. So, I mean, yeah, if he's willing to play ball and you have the money that you can afford him, then yeah, I think he definitely is. I mean, he is a star of that magnitude, and he brings with him a lot of eyeballs as well. So. He's definitely one that yeah, I would if they announced him, I would say, all right, that's cool, that's good. Let's see what happens. So
they say it's a multi-year deal, by the way. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. Oh, he did say that. Okay. Well,
so
I mean, if Brock gave you his price and you can match the price, then fucking go for it. Yeah, whatever.
Let's get this out of the way. Do you think there's any universe where he can coax John Cena or The Rock into putting their names?
Yeah, I really don't. I don't.
But, I know. But look at it this way. My point here is look at the names we're bringing up. This is the level that they have to deliver.
Right,
now.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I don't think Christian is going to cut it.
Yeah, so he's actually my favorite to be the guy as Christian, because it's been very interesting about the Christian stuff, and there's conflicting reports about his contract status. He hasn't really done anything since Royal Rumble. He'd be a perfect guy to say, hey, go to. And he's done it before. He did it with Impact, where he'll play both sides and say, hey, look, here's what WWE's going to give me. What can you guys give me? And go for it, dude. If you got yourself in good shape, they cleared you, quote unquote, after clearly not clearing you for years. But then when, times got tough, they said, Christian, you're good to go, pal. You're good. All right. your brain's fine now. Daniel Bryan, Edge, Christian, your brains and necks are all fine, mysteriously, randomly, all of a sudden now in this last year. But yeah, no, he's probably my best pick. But I'm with you in that he walks a very, very fine line of star enough, but also you probably have people laughing at, oh my god, that's not nearly enough. That's. Your hardcore fans would say, oh, that's cool because Christian's a good wrestler and we like him or whatever. But I think you would have casual fans that would kind of go, oh, Christian, is he really that? I mean, they've sold it as a big star. But like you said, they've sold it as the Doctor of Thugonomics. John Cena's walking out on AEW Revolution, like Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Like, that's.
If it's the Doctor of Thugonomics, John Cena, now we're cooking with gas.
Max Caster licking his chops right there. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Cuts off Max Caster mid. Maybe Cena's the extra ladder guy. Max Caster's cutting one of his promos. Yo, and then all of a sudden, here comes John Cena. Somehow he uses the WWE music. I don't know how he did that, but they can
do that. Do the Thugonomics John Cena beat again.
I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. So.
Oh, you're too shy now.
I'm too shy now. Yeah.
This is like when TLB nails an impression, and I'm like, "That was good. Do it again."
But you can't. Yeah, you can't make it happen. So.
Can't replicate the magic, but I want to hear that John Cena beat.
I'll try it at some point. Yeah, that song rules, by the way. That song's awesome. The original one.
Oh yeah,
Word Life.
Yeah, Word Life. Yeah, perfect for the character and everything. Did you hear Max Caster telling an 8-year-old he wants to see him in the streets?
I did.
I was crying with laughter.
Because that's perfect good heel stuff. You know what I mean? Challenge a fucking 8-year-old to a fight. You know what I mean? It's awesome. I love it.
See me in the streets to a third grader. Right. And right after the Lady Gaga dog walker line.
I know I didn't catch that one initially, and then I rewatched part of Dynamite. So I watched that part live, and people were like, oh, the Lady Gaga line. Ooh, that's a little much. And I was like, what? I didn't even remember that I heard it. I was like, ooh.
Oh, come on.
No, I know. He's fine, people. He's all right. He's good. The dogs are back. He's fine.
Who cares if he's dead? It's still a good line.
Get some heat. Yeah, get some heat.
Yeah, come on.
It's fucking wrestling. Yeah, people really want wrestling to not be professional liars coaxing you out of your money, but there it is. So.
Stop putting this shit on a pedestal. It's trash entertainment. Right. Jeez.
It's like barely a step above the Jerry Springer Show, people. In some cases, literally the Jerry Springer Show, because wasn't one of the Dundees was like the booker for the Jerry Springer Show, right?
Yeah, PG-13.
Yeah, he was on a bunch of the episodes too, which is awesome.
Yeah. But I don't remember if it was Jamie Dundee or Wolfie D. But
yeah, one of the like legit. His title was like whatever, but essentially was a booker, right? Like
yeah, he was writing storylines for the
awesome.
show.
I love it so much. It's so great.
Yeah, like that was his territory. The Jerry Springer.
So what if y'all were in a monogamous relationship and. He's just sitting there, you know what I mean? It's so awesome. I love it. It's fucking wrestling. Like wrestling's trash as fuck.
And then y'all two fucked, yeah, and you said that, and then say that you fucked him, but then say that you fucked his mom. Yeah, like that's the kind of shit that he was writing. And then
right when she says that's when you clock him. There you go. It's wrestling.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But wait till Steve gets there. You want to make sure that Steve is in between you. Because if Steve's not in between you, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, with believability, with popping at the right time, hitting the right notes, building the tension. Yeah, it's trash. It's garbage.
And then we're going to have ourselves a pull apart, and he's like explaining to them what a pull apart is. Yeah, that's totally what was going down in that studio. After years, after growing up in Memphis wrestling,
yeah,
on top of that,
right.
With guys getting hit by cars and everything else. So. Yeah, no doubt about it. Incredible. That's what wrestling is.
Yeah, wrestling is the Jerry Springer Show literally being booked. So that's.
Yeah, I mean, people put wrestling on a pedestal and then they're disappointed when wrestling lets them down. You're doing that to yourself. So who else can this guy be? I mean, who are even the other options?
Yeah,
here?
Christian was one. Kurt Angle obviously won. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of ruling out the John Cena. I mean, Brock, I guess. Would be one, as you said, Punk. Maybe he's trying to take people off the scent. I don't know. Everyone's kind of trying to do the math. I'm trying to think of who hasn't appeared someplace. I think Jeff Hardy maybe has a possibility of being a guy. I would hate that. That would suck.
Maybe someone whose contract just ran out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I were WWE, right, I'd spoil it and I would put out a tweet that said, "We wish so and so the best in his future endeavors." because that's the kind of
don't
dirty
let them sell one extra pay-per-view because of this announcement. You know what I mean? Because there might be people that say, fuck, you know what, $60, whatever. I want to see what this announcement is. Yeah, if I'm WWE right now, I say, yeah, we wish X the best in his future endeavors.
Cesaro.
Yeah, right. Don't let them sell one extra pay-per-view if you can handle
or
it.
If, the other way around, does that help them sell the pay-per-views? Because then people are like, oh shit, so and so's the guy. So
I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if the surprise is what sells it or just seeing that person appear. And I don't know.
Yeah,
it's got us talking about it. So hopefully they. And again, you can only do so many of these, and you can't have it disappoint. Because if it's fucking Ethan Page, and they go, "Oh, Ethan Page is a Hall of Fame level talent," or you know what I mean, like some whatever, then like we're never gonna believe. I mean, this is important to kind of keep establishing that when you make these announcements, it's got to
I think
land.
Khan understands that as well.
I think so too. I think so too.
I saw someone that was like, "Oh, maybe it's Zelina Vega." Do the math on the 90 day, and I'm like, "Who the fuck would care? Like, who would care? No one would care."
Yeah, I saw some AJ Lee. I'm like, dude, if it's AJ Lee, like then no one's gonna give a shit what these guys ever have to say about any sort of surprise.
Rich, if Zelina Vega walked out, I'm not positive I'd recognize her. Like maybe after a while, because she'd have another name, whatever her name was elsewhere or whatever. And I get it after a while, but like
Rosita, if Rosita runs out,
yeah, I'm not going to immediately recognize Zelina Vega. Like, come on, reel it in. Like, people have this warped idea of what a star is. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know, but it's got me curious and it has me interested. Can they get away with it being? All right, let me throw this scenario at you and we'll move on. Paul White pitched this, right? So maybe it's someone with a historical connection to Paul White. And Tony Khan then said it's a major, major star in professional wrestling. Could the surprise be Paul White announcing he's a wrestler?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You think people would shit on that? Or do you think,
I think so. That would be kind of bait and switchy. I think so, because I think a lot of people aren't really really looking forward to Big Show like being an in-ring wrestler, and you've already kind of gotten that pop already. I don't know. I would find it. I kind of find it pretty eye-rolly, and I'd imagine most people probably would too. But
I'm going to tell you what it's going to be. I got it.
You got it. Okay.
It just came to me. It's going to be Paul White out there. And he's going to say, hit the music. And it's going to be, oh!
Davey, he's going to walk down, People are going to extend their hands to slap him. He's just going to walk right past them. Fuck you.
That look on his face. Yeah.
With that stupid, the tattoo, with the fucking, the scratch tattoo.
Yeah. Or if Tony was smart, he would buy the rights to Running with the Devil.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that, dun, dun, I would pop through the roof. Dun, 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 and then Davey comes out. Oh man, I'm setting myself up for disappointment.
It's not going to be Davey Richards, I don't think. So.
Because nobody can live up to Davey Richards. I mean, I'd rather have Davey Richards than John Cena, if I'm being honest. I mean, I have more interest in Davey Richards.
The best part about this whole Davey Richards thing is that you've sold it so much that people that thought it was a joke and laughed about it are now like all in on Davey. Like when you make your dumb Davey Richards tweets, like we used to get people be like, "Ugh, okay, he stinks," or like, "Oh, who gives a shit." Now every person, and the same people that were like rolled their eyes before are like, "Fuck yeah, Davey Richards, let's go!" Like,
absolutely.
Like we should book a WrestleMania weekend where our big surprise is Davey Richards, because we would sell that fucking place out. Because you've built him up so much at this point.
Yeah.
And people have turned the corner because you so bought into this gimmick that people have now turned the corner, and now Davey is like awesome. You know what I mean? Like everybody thinks he's awesome now.
Yeah.
And cannot wait to see him. There's people involved in wrestling that I know have worked with him that in the past have said that they hated working with him, that are now like, you know what, fuck it, yeah, bring Davey Richards. Like Dr. Keith, AEW is like, fuck yeah, let's bring like I know that he's dealt with Davey Richards in the past. I know not all of those situations, because it's Davey Richards, I know not all those situations were positive. Yeah. Because it's Davey Richards. Like,
but today on Twitter he's like, hell yeah,
yeah, he's like, fuck yeah, let's do it, baby. Like,
yeah.
It's awesome.
Because I feel like people, they're starting to come around. A close second to Davey Richards, okay, would be those lights going out, but it's actually Sabu this time.
This time it's Sabu, yeah.
I mean, I would love that too.
He is a Hall of Fame level, a Hall of Fame caliber wrestler. He just hasn't, obviously he's not in the World Wrestling Entertainment Hall of Fame, so.
And he's been canceled so many times it doesn't matter anymore.
Right? Yeah. Who cares anymore?
Nobody cares about Sabu and his awful Twitter feed or anything.
People would try, but it's like, come on.
No one would. Yeah, no one.
He got canceled in 1995. Like, he
gets a pass. It does not matter.
He's been there and back 77 times in between there, and so
yeah. We all know he's a fucking idiot. It doesn't matter. So that would be run a close second, and then maybe like The Rock,
and then Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Right. Correct. Yeah, Davey Richards,
then
Sabu,
Dwayne Johnson,
and then Dwayne Johnson, who Chris Jericho slyly mentioned on Dynamite. I don't know if you caught that.
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah. So, well, I mean, that'd be good. That'd be a big get if you can get Dwayne Johnson. So
it would be.
Oh God. All right, we'll see. We'll find out. We'll talk about it on the Instant Reaction, patreon.com/Voices Wrestling, $10 tier. All right, let's. We got about a half hour here, so let's quickly go through. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Rich, the Ally Cat has been hinting that she signed a contract recently.
Oh, like what? Like a house or like an apartment or what? What kind of contract are we talking?
No, like a wrestling contract.
Oh, okay. I thought she signed a new lease on her apartment or something.
She joined the new gym, from what I understand. So she's locked into Planet Fitness for 6 months.
She's with Xfinity for 3 years. She got free voice with the new contract. So yeah.
Yes, the 4G package of Verizon. No, she allegedly is made up. Could it be the Ally Cat? You never know. Could you imagine Paul White? Here's the surprise here. And they give her like a strong cat noise, right? Or, Tony's big on buying songs now. He buys, like, Cat Scratch Fever from...
Yeah. That'd be pretty good. All right.
Dun, 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 and the Ally Cat comes out with the fucking... with the, what do you call it? The tentacles, the...
Whiskers, I believe is what they're called.
Whiskers on the face, right?
Tentacles, I believe they're called whiskers. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for. Well, I couldn't describe a ring post earlier, and now you're having trouble describing whiskers. So it's been a long day for sure.
It's a later show than usual. What do you want from me? Yeah.
There's a good comment in the chat room. You can do the same thing, but people think it's Ally Cat, and it's actually Sable. Rita Mero comes out, so you get the
yeah. I know I'd instantly think Ally Cat.
And then it's Rita Mero. So, well, not Rita Mero, not Rita Lesnar or whatever. Yeah.
And she can introduce Brock, right?
Or it's just Rita Mero. Yeah, it's just fucking Sable. So.
Well, I think it was Gran Akuma on Twitter who said they should do the old ECW gimmick, right? Where you first give the people a letdown, right? And then they boo and then you give them the real surprise. Right? So that's kind of like along those lines.
Yeah, it's Ethan Page, but then Brock Lesnar comes out and fucking F5s him through a table or whatever. You're like, fuck yeah. Yeah.
Right. Or it's Pat McAfee, Hall of Fame level punter.
That's true.
And then you have the real guy come out after he cuts a promo. And then, because listen, I am now convinced Pat McAfee is signed, sealed, and delivered.
There's a lot of smoke. There's too much smoke to that fire. And he's also reacting to things being said about him like a minute after they're said about him, which,
He was talking about the Cody burial from the media.
like 3 minutes after the Cody burial happened, yeah.
On his radio show. It's all too convenient. And the Cody burial went too hard. It went a little too hard. Because Cody knows that it's assumed that he's not kayfabing on those things. So he knows he can slip things in that are kayfabe to get headlines.
Mm-hmm.
And a week earlier, Tony Khan had said publicly that he's friends with Pat McAfee and he competed against him in the same division. And he goes way back. He thinks Pat McAfee does a tremendous job. He said all this on the Observer show because McAfee won Rookie of the Year. He put over McAfee, right? Now you got Cody burying McAfee a little too hard, in my opinion. And McAfee, like you're saying, reacting like literally a minute later. How would he be instantly? Look, I know he's checking Twitter during his show and someone probably added him and that's plausible. But to then immediately discuss it.
To have it ready to go. And he's doing a pretty major. He's not doing like what we're doing here. You know what I mean? Like that's a pretty major show. Like you don't drop everything to go react to a guy talking about you on a media call unless you've had some sort of you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't care that. I mean, I'm sure that'd be a thing that like they'd bring up and he'd write it down on a little note. And when they're done, you know, burying, you know, some fucking free agent move in the NFL or whatever, or doing, I mean, that show is ridiculous. Like, I listen to it every so often. It's like, it's just the broiest thing you've ever fucking heard on that show. It's too much for me. It's like, it's like
too much,
you walk into a frat house and everyone's just dipping and drinking and just talking about like broads and laughing. And it's you feel like you just entered into like a giant inside joke and you have no idea what's going on. But that's like, that's the thing that he'd write down in a little note and then get to, you know, after they come back from the break. Hey, we're back here, and I heard Cody Rhodes is, but it's like immediately drops in with, Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? It's too convenient.
Well, I mean,
a little too much.
Look. Cody tells him, he's like, look, I'm doing this media call. I'm going to bring either.
Exactly. Right.
Whether I get asked about it or not, I'm bringing
like,
it
there's
up.
some communication between the two going on. There's no doubt about that.
I look, I know nothing. I don't know it, but my gut is telling me that this is a done deal, because if WWE wants nothing to do with him, why wouldn't you want to bring him in? I mean, it's a no-brainer. The guy's incredible. He's great. So, you know,
good athlete, personality, enjoys wrestling,
loves wrestling, is good at it.
Why not? Yeah.
He's got an extremely popular radio show listened to by millions, which is very advantageous for you if he's going to promote AEW on a daily basis on his radio show, like he did for WWE. So it's a no-brainer. I think it's a done deal. I think that with the Miro spat, I think was a setup. He put over the Shaq match as soon as it happened. He's leaning way too hard into this I'm retired thing. I think it's happening. And I think he could be part of whatever this is with the surprise. So he could be, if they're doing the Heyman deal, he could be the letdown. He comes out as a heel, rips on the crowd, you know, and then the real guy comes out and beats him up.
Right.
I mean, I think it's perfect.
So that's the speculation on that guy. As I said, AEW Revolution, we will do the instant reaction immediately following the show, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling at $10 tier. So we only have about a half an hour, so we're going to have to really condense this New Japan talk. But that's fine. I've really only watched kind of the big matches on these shows. We probably don't need to touch on every single match on every one of these shows. But I'm going to start out with the big news coming from New Japan before we actually talk about the matches. This was announced earlier in the week. New Japan chairman Naoki Sugabayashi says to Tokyo Sports that he'll be unifying the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Championships, and Kota Ibushi will now be known as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So you add the world in there. There's a little bit of interesting stuff here about whether the lineage carries on or not. There's one quote on this New Japan website that says the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Championships will be unified and their lineages brought forward under the banner of the new IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And then in literally the next paragraph, it says Kota Ibushi will be recognized as the first IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So I don't know what the hell's going on with this. I don't understand this at all. Joe, try to explain this to me, why the fuck we're doing this.
Well, you hate this, right?
I hate it. It's fucking terrible.
Then the floor is yours, sir.
I just don't get, like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fake title, it's a prop, it's whatever, but like, why would you? This is the stuff that you do when you're 0-1, when you're Noah in 2014 and your back's against the wall. This is the thing that you do when you're All Japan and you're struggling to kind of figure out what the hell your next step's going to be or try to get some momentum going. When you're the leader, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you throwing away your history like this? Why are they splitting any sort of connection to their history? And this is a company that's embraced their history.
Okay, hold on. So your issue is throwing away the history more than throwing away the IC title.
I don't give a shit about the IC title. Yeah, who cares?
Okay, so it's the history.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about the IC title. I care about the IWGP title. The IC title has no fucking history.
See, I think it does. I think Nakamura and then obviously the Naito-Ibushi feud are the two things you would look at. But I agree. Throwing out the history of that title isn't what's going to bother anyone. I understand where you're coming from, throwing out the history of the IWGP title. It does bother me too. Look, All Japan did this with the Triple Crown. They combined those titles. But I think the difference there is they took three titles that were kind of splintered anyway and made it something more important.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like we're taking a title that is one of the most prestigious titles in wrestling and just deciding that, no, we can't have that anymore. Why? Like, I don't understand why. Like, what are we doing?
Do you think with the benefit of time, you'll see this as more prestigious than the IWGP title?
Maybe, but I mean, it might take, they had 30 years to build up the IWGP title, and they did to the point where it was a really cool title for a lot of years. It looked cool. It had a cool sort of the title, I don't care. The actual look of the title, I saw some people getting upset about that. I don't care. I never care about that.
Yeah.
Like, it's good to have a good-looking title, but I don't care. But I care about the actual lineage of the title. I care about the name of the title. I care about the names that you can say that this person is the 45th, IWGP champion. He has the same lineage that Inoki and this guy and that guy. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff's cool. I think that stuff's awesome, and I always would embrace that in wrestling. I would never, ever run away from that. The NWA, the fumes of the NWA, whatever is left of the NWA, is result 100% because of that fucking title that they carry around. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
The whole 10 pounds of gold, Sweet Charlotte, whatever. The NWA is built on that fucking... The NWA would have been gone 25 years ago, if not for that title.
Yeah.
It's all about that strap that you can say, hey, Buddy Rogers... this guy had... They don't have title. They do that with Buddy Rogers, and they go back, and they used to embrace that a little bit more. They obviously don't as much because they splintered it or whatever. But, like, with the NWA title, Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes, and like, you always have that connection to it. Whereas if the NWA in let's say Billy Corgan buys the NWA and says, we're going to have a new title, and it has no lineage to whatsoever to the old NWA title, it's fucking meaningless. The NWA is meaningless at that time. It's the NWA heavyweight title. It doesn't matter. It has no... But the fact that they can say, hey, this 10 pounds of gold means that you're the best, and it's meant you're the best since 1960, whatever, that stuff is worth so much. And when you have that type of history, and it's mostly positive history too. That's the thing. You're saying, like, yeah, the All Japan thing was a bunch of splintered titles. The super, the J Crown was like a bunch of splintered titles that they kind of all put together, and the goal eventually was to kind of break them up and move them away. Anyway, but still, the idea of the J Crown was take these, titles from all across the world and put them together and all that sort of stuff. But they weren't like prestige. I don't think that any of them was like super prestigious titles, especially at that point. But this is one of the charter titles in fucking wrestling. I don't understand why we have to do this. I'm lost as to, why. And yeah, it could get to this point. It could absolutely get to that point. But I mean, they just threw away 30 years of history in one fell swoop. So I don't know. I guess in a few years it could be there. But right now it's a new title.
I don't love it. I don't hate it as much as you. I don't love it. I think that if they really wanted to just do away with having these two titles, I mean, my preferred option would just be for Ibushi to give up the IC and keep the IC around. I think the IC is useful and good. My second option would have been... So
here's the thing about the IC, not to interrupt with you. I think it was good. They've lost the plot on that title a long time ago.
Yeah, but you could always get it right back.
I guess. Yeah, I would hope so, but I don't know what the hell they've done with that title ever since.
You put it on the right person and they have a good reign and you headline with it. And you could always get that right. But I agree with you, but I think you could get that right back. That would have been my preferred option. My number two option would have just been to have Ibushi have him do away with it. Say, well, I don't think there's much a need for this anymore because it's combined now, and the IWGP is obviously the most prestigious. Then you could put over the other title and just retire the other one. Combining them, again, because like you're saying, it destroys all that history. It minimizes all of that history. And I don't know if the three components of the Triple Crown had that kind of history behind them coming in. I don't think that they did. So I think the Triple Crown ended up being something far more prestigious than the sum of its parts. Whereas with this, maybe that'll be the case in 30 years or something. But it's a little weird and awkward now. I don't love it. You seem more passionate about it than me, but I definitely do not love the idea.
I love the history of wrestling, and I think it's such a great storytelling mechanism that you always can have, is that this title is the same one that X held. And before every title match, you can show that video of all the people that have held the title. And people are saying, oh, they'll still do that. They can still do it, but it doesn't mean it's not the same title. Kota Ibushi is the first it's not the same title. So you can show fucking Bob Sapp and Antonio Inoki and all that sort of shit. So, I don't know. It just bothers me for a lot of reasons because I just don't know why. That's been my thing with New Japan for the last 2 years is I don't know why we're doing all this stuff.
Here's a bottom line. Let me pose you a question and a question to the listeners. does the title that Kota Ibushi holds now feel more important than the two that he held before? To me, I can't say it does.
Okay, phrase that one again.
Okay, so he has the IWGP World Heavyweight title now,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Does that feel more important to you than holding the two belts previously? Like significantly a bigger deal?
No, not really, because I think the IWGP Heavyweight title, the one getting morphed into it is just as prestigious. So, yeah, I really don't.
Yeah, I don't either, and that could be because we're in the moment. There might have been someone having this discussion in 1989 or whatever year it was the Triple Crown was put together. There might have been people complaining about that too in real time. I don't know. And then, 30 years on, it's like, you feel like the Triple Crown is more prestigious than the titles it replaced.
Yeah, the whole thing is, and again, we got buried 6 feet deep by saying this whole unifying thing was stupid when they did it 2 years ago.
Yeah,
it was stupid then.
I didn't like it.
And I always thought the best idea was that Naito wins both belts, and then the next day just goes, hey, I don't need this IC title anymore. I've achieved it. I've gotten both together. I'm the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. I've gotten to my final goal. I've won them. Here you go. Have this title back. Do whatever you want with it. I have the crown that I really care about right now. That's it.
No one else has done this. I'm the only person ever who will do it, but I don't want this other one anymore.
Yeah, it's too much of a burden. I can't do both. Whatever. That's fine. That's okay. They've done that many times before. Ultimate Warrior didn't. Once he won the WWF title, he said, "Okay, IC title's cool, but I don't need that anymore. I got this one," and that's fine. That's okay. Because it was always going to be clunky. It was always going to be clunky for the guy. We always said if the guy who loses, if you can't have your guy that's the double champion lose the IC title to some guy that's beneath him and then keep it was just always going to be clunky and weird and annoying and strange. And the easiest way would have just been him getting rid of the title immediately, giving it to somebody else, and you could still use the IC title. Like that's where I think people, when I say the IC title doesn't mean anything anymore and I don't really care, is I think that they have not utilized that title in any way that they should.
It made you feel that way.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's not, don't get mad at me for saying the IC title doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter anymore. It's a complete non-factor in this company right now.
They had 3 other opportunities. They could have had Evil say that. They could have had Naito say that when he won it back. And they could have had Ibushi say that when he won it from Naito. They had 3 other opportunities after Naito beat Okada to have one of the champions say, you know what? I don't want this. Let Evil do it. He's a heel. It would have put more heat on him.
Right.
They could have had Evil give it up and say, I don't want this. I didn't want the Never Trios, and I don't want this. And so there were other opportunities along the way to get the thing back into circulation if you wanted to tell the story of Naito being the first guy to combine these things, which I think was a good enough story in a vacuum.
Sure. Yeah. And don't get it twisted. Like I love the IC title when it was like headlining shows, when Nakamura had it on and it was really doing stuff with it and had completely reinvigorated that title. I mean, go back and listen to those shows. We loved it. We lauded them as, oh my God, how awesome and how smart is New Japan by making this title as important as it is, where it can headline a show. And now you can headline shows with the IWGP title. You can headline shows with the IC title. And then they got so fucking good at it that they were headlining shows with the Never title. And then they said, fuck it, let's do this US title. And they made that work for a little bit too. And they had 4 titles they could main event shows with. And now what do we have? Where are we at now?
I know.
They're not good right now, man. Booking fucking stinks. This is just yet another example. I don't know, man.
It's a new era. I tried to tell people it is a new era in a number of different ways. So it's just got to see where the rest of this goes. They're getting their feet wet with the new era of this company and the new directions they're taking, making new stars, making new titles. There's just a different feel, and it's not just COVID. There's a different feel in the company overall. It's just everything it's new.
Yeah.
We talked about it at the top. I mean, these things do not last forever. And, that hot period for New Japan ended the day Naito won these double titles. And this hammers that home.
Some other announcements from New Japan. That May 15th, they're going to run in Yokohama Stadium. These are shows called Wrestle Grand Slam. Yokohama Stadium, May 15th, and May 29th in the Tokyo Dome. This will be the first non-Wrestle Kingdom January 4th, January 5th Tokyo Dome show for New Japan since 2005. They did it in 2005, where fittingly, as we're talking about the IWGP title being massacred, IWGP Heavyweight title 3-way match, Brock Lesnar, Fujita, and Masahiro Chono was the last time they ran the Tokyo Dome, which I guess is a perfect representation of the year that we're in right now, when New Japan has no idea what their identity is and is just grasping at straws. So here we go.
That was really the dark era of the title too, when it got splintered off and all of that. But they recovered from that and built the prestige back up in the ensuing years. But
also on that show, I just wanted to note Black Tiger versus Tiger Mask, the famous the match between those two, and also of course the equally famous Matt Morgan Yuji Nagata tilt. That of course we all remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, I've been saying this consistently, and I'll continue to say it when it comes to Japanese wrestling in general. I cannot get excited about these big buildings.
Yeah, we gotta stop. Can we really? I know we're getting low on time here. We gotta stop with this. We have to stop declaring these being, oh man, Stardom's running Budokan and New Japan's running the Tokyo Dome, and they're getting these things on a budget. They're fucking putting 10,000 people, 5,000 people in these giant. Like, come on, we got it.
They wish.
Yeah, they wish. We got it. We got to put these on equal. Just, it's okay to say, hey, that's cool to run in this building, but let's not say, oh, what an accomplishment, they've ran Budokan Hall for the first time.
I don't even think it's necessarily all that cool. I cannot get excited about any of these big building shows. They're fake. They're fake big building shows.
Right. WWE is running a giant stadium every single week. 3 times a week. Who gives a shit? Who cares?
Who cares? It means nothing. I mean, I don't know why people are getting excited about these companies putting 3,000 fans into Budokan Hall with limited attendance. You can't.
Because literally the building is not getting anything else. So like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah.
with awful atmosphere clap crowds that no matter how people try to fool themselves, the atmospheres stink. It's look, I understand the mindset. Well, let's rent the biggest buildings possible so we could sell the most tickets possible.
Right, because it's a percentage base. For people that don't know, Japan is doing, you can sell up to X amount of capacity or whatever. So they get the biggest building possible, and they go, okay, we'll get X amount of people in here, and that means 5,000, 6,000, whatever it might be, which is smart. I mean, for the company, it's smart. That's fine. But we don't have to throw roses at them of, oh my God, what an accomplishment. They're running, Sumo Hall 8 straight days. It's like, who cares? Like, that doesn't mean anything.
I mean, it's like I can't find any enthusiasm to be excited about this. This kind of announcement in normal times, you'd be real excited. Holy shit. They're running a baseball stadium and they're running the fucking Tokyo Dome.
Like week to week, 2 weeks between each other.
This is awesome. The shows are going to be loaded. They're going to have these hot crowds. I can't be excited about. How can I be excited about 7,000 people spread apart in the Tokyo Dome, politely clapping at the matches they're watching? I can't be excited about that. It doesn't do anything for me. The baseball stadium, okay, we saw Jingu that had a kind of a unique atmosphere. All right, that's fine. But again, I can't be super excited about this.
Yeah, Jingu was cool because it was kind of like the emergence from the sterile COVID arenas or whatever. But that was cool in the one sense because it was like, all right, cool. But no, I'm not going to be excited about a fucking Tokyo Dome show in mid-May with 5,000 people.
It's not a real Tokyo Dome show.
No, it's not. Yeah.
It's and I'm not trying to be a buzzkill or anything like that, but
Brad Armstrong.
That Noah atmosphere wasn't great. I mean, it looked like a big time setup, but the fans aren't allowed to react. Stardom didn't earn running Budokan. They ran it because it's on the cheap.
Right. Like I know people were excited about it. I don't want to shit on everybody, but being like, wow, this is just like Dream Slam. And it's like, get out of here. They were selling 50,000 tickets to Dream Slam. They had an 8-hour show that everybody was fucking crying and bowing before them when it was over because it was so great. And they made like $8 million on tickets and merchandise. Like, fucking reel it in. Like, come on. Like, this isn't Dream Slam.
And the thing is, there's no pressure on any of these companies to sell tickets because all you have to do is get in these buildings, sell 3,000 tickets, and it's a win.
Yeah, you sell 3,000, you sell 4,000, you sell 5,000. It's whatever. Who cares? Yeah.
There's no pressure. It doesn't mean anything. There's no success and there's no failure. You cannot analyze any of this shit. It's just and again, I understand why they're doing it because it's better to sell 3,000 tickets from New Japan's perspective in Budokan with a week main event than to run, a building that normally holds 3,000 and to sell 1,800. I get it. I understand. Right.
It's more advantageous to run this than the Sendai Sun Plaza or whatever. It's probably this, It's not that much more money to run Budokan, but you can sell 4,000 more tickets. So why not? You know.
So why wouldn't they run Tokyo Dome in May and try to sell 10,000 tickets?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I understand, but it doesn't mean I have to be excited about it.
Right, I'm not going to say, oh my God, they're back in the Tokyo Dome. What a success! Like it means nothing.
It's almost sad.
Yes.
It's more sad to me because it's like it just reminds me what we're being denied of. You know, I cannot be excited about it. I've been consistent with this train of thought. New Japan is in a volume business now. This is why they're running a show in 6 hours from now. This is why they're running 3 Korakuens in a row right after the anniversary show.
Of why I can't keep up when we talk about the New Japan shows later, which might have to be an overrun. We'll see how that goes because we're about 10 minutes in there. But it's why I can't keep up. I just cannot fucking keep up with this company.
They're not concerned with selling the maximum amount of tickets. They're just concerned with running as many shows as possible and selling as many tickets as possible. It's a volume business. They don't care that they're only selling 500 tickets to these Korakuen Hall shows that start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because they're going to run 4 in a row and sell 2,000 tickets by the end of the week, which is the same as what they would have sold by running the one show in normal time. It's a volume business right now. And that's why I can't analyze attendance, care about attendance, look at attendance. And I've tried to stay away from – we haven't talked attendance since COVID started on this show because the topic – to me isn't interesting because you can't glean anything off of it. There's people going, this show drew 3,000 fans. That's pretty good. Well, how do you know what it is?
Right.
You don't know what it is. You can only compare it against other COVID shit and whether there's a state of emergency, whether people think it's worth risking their health to see the main event, whether how many tickets were on sale. It's too much. It's a waste of time. And I'm not impressed by running these big buildings. I actually find it a little depressing that they're running all these big buildings and then not able to put anybody in them, and fans have to sit there and do their little golf claps, and you have no idea whether anything is over or not.
Yeah, there was a building that they ran recently, New Japan ran, and it took me like halfway through the show until I was like, oh fuck, they're running like it was probably Budokan. It was probably Budokan for this 49th anniversary show where I'm watching it and I'm like, oh yeah, they're in fucking Budokan Hall. Like this is like a sacred place of wrestling, and it took me like 3/4 of the show to realize, oh yeah, that's in Budokan, because you can't tell because it's just this abyss of darkness, you know what I mean? And crowds going, and they're clapping a little bit harder for this guy. It's just
there was this period where I think all of us were like, they're clapping harder for this match.
Right, this clap is more enthusiastic.
And I think just about all of us have thrown in the towel on that shit. You can't judge any of these clap react. You don't know anything. You don't know
hot clap crowd. Yes.
Can we please stop with that? And to be fair, most people have. I mean, no one's really been attempting to do that anymore. But I get it. We all wanted hope. Like, maybe, at some point, I think we've all slowly thrown in the towel on trying to analyze clap crowds and what's over or not. We don't know. Rich, I remember people reading on Twitter, people saying how hot the crowd was for Muto winning the title.
How hot the clap crowd was.
Yeah, no. And then I watched it, and I was expecting to see people on their feet and just, outside of gasping for the finish because it was a surprise, no one reacted to that at all. No. They panned the crowd and people looked bored. Half of them weren't even clapping. I have no idea whether those people were excited or not because they're all terrified to open their mouths. So I've had it with these clap crowds. I've had it with these fake shows in these big buildings. It does nothing for me. I want to be excited about this stuff. I can't be. Man, we really shit on that, didn't we?
We really did. Yeah, it's just it's been building up for a long time. Yeah, it's you and I we're kind of grumpy assholes, but it's just like, I don't know. It
doesn't help that Japan isn't really lighting my world on
fire. No, it definitely doesn't help. And I think it's also like seeing people, and I don't mean to be an asshole, but like seeing people like really get excited about these show announcements. Like, I don't mean to do that, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. They're not really like.
They're not real shows.
No, yeah. So actually, it was Castle Attack. I could not believe that. Like Osaka Joe Hall, which is a really cool arena, and it was just like it may as well have been an empty fucking studio. It no difference. And I love that arena. I love Osaka Joe Hall shows, and it was just like, who cares? Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to push the New Japan reviews to the overrun?
We've got the. Let me take a look at this.
We got Castle Attack 1, Castle Attack 2, 49th anniversary show. And the NXT moving to Tuesday news. So we won't go like an hour because I have to get up pretty soon here. But
now we can run through the key matches from the New Japan shows. I'm not even sure you saw all of it.
I did not see all the matches, so I can only react to kind of the top stuff because they're running too many goddamn shows and I can't keep up. So
yeah, okay, I think we should do that because we are up against it here.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes to cover 3 shows and another news story. So yeah, we will do so. $10 subscribers. We screwed this up last time, but we got it this time. $10 subscribers. You're good. If you're listening live right now, you're good. We're gonna just
don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. We're gonna take a.
Keep listening.
We're gonna pause for a few seconds. Go right to the overrun. If you're listening on the free show, this is where we end. This is where we depart. We say goodbye. But for the low price of what, $5, right? $5? Is that all we're charging for this thing? $5. Unbelievable. $5. On the $5 tier, patreon.com/voices of wrestling. You will hear the overrun, our review of the New Japan shows, brief discussion about the NXT moving to Tuesdays. And yeah, so if you're a free listener, that is it for you. Goodbye. Enjoy. Pay the $5. Hear the rest. But the $10 subscribers that are listening live, stay with us, and we'll go to the overrun. So anyway, for Joe Lanza, I'm Rich Craich. We'll talk to you next time on the Voice of Wrestling Flagship Podcast.